Then she used her long tongue to lick me and asked the demons behind 2LSU, "You were definitely hungry, right?" Then she pointed to Kim-gu village and ordered to go to eat those fresh flesh and blood to the aroma of the children that made me drool already. Then she flipped the illusion water down the water like Kim-gu village was about to be overturned. At this time, the devils suddenly rushed up, making people scared and startled, saying that what the demon rushed to run to a peaceful countryside, now everyone is scared to run in chaos. The big name shielded the light of the innocent girl who was scared and feared. Lu Zhaoge is still so high and looks down and asks who you are. Chen Xiao used his hand to point to himself to confirm to Lu Zhaoge, "This is a disciple of the foot of the sword." Finally, Lu Zhaoge also controlled his leaf-shaped flying carpet from lowering his disciples. It was just a disciple. Lu Zhaoge continued, "This disciple you are teaching the master." Chen Xiao was told by the person in front of him to be bewildered. As soon as I thought I still remembered myself when I was in my subject, my legendary disciple became the elder of the sword Tong, which is just a matter of time than that in terms of the monk among the disciples. I don't know how many of these names have been angry at this time, but don't flatter me. This side is helplessly using his hand to smash his face and then give him sickness. Tu stared at Lu Zhaoge. If he did not flatter me, he would have a special place for me to check. Thinking that making Chen Xiao immediately used consciousness, Lu Zhaoge smirked and smirked to check my monks. Then he immediately released the monk of the first scene. Chen Xiao laughed at the new disciple using the consciousness to consider the Grand Master of the Grand Master maybe the first scene. Lu Zhaoge did not object to ask again. After that, he turned around, causing Chen Xiao to be bewildered. Lu Zhaoge in turn launched the first monk. Make Chen Xiao with a, mouthed wilder. Surprisingly screaming the first scene of Luke Trunk Tain. Doing again immediately became the first scene. The expression of Chen Xiao this time is even more surprised than the previous time, until the end is also bigger than the first scene. Lu Zhaoge does not look at him, just tilting his face to ask you how to see how. Chen Xiao was threatened with both cold sweat that he could not see him hidden. Lu Dong's this side is extremely surprised to see that the case has just happened to break the scene again. Remember the previous things? She could not help but smile, and was still the Singer that day. The image of both smaller and smaller showing up to chase Zhaoge is the person we admire in the world. Under the sunshine of Lu Zhaoge, as if he was glowing in this world, there would be no more than the Singer. Chen Xiao on. This side of the mouth has not closed. The cold sweat then relentlessly poured out. Lu Zhaoge glancing at him, thinking silently. Thinking about this previous life, we have heard of it because this guy is a genuine spare tire. Chen Xiao, who has been leaving his body, has not returned in time, so he still has that amazing state until now. Lu Zhaoge remembered him. In his previous life, he liked jewelry, but his strength did not come to the place to escape, nor should he be the best to make people uncomfortable. Chen Xiao chased after Yu Yu. He is also a fan with the number of Yu Yue's cheeks. But this little disciple's because she likes jewelry but does not know how many things do Yu Yue help him go to the market to cause a big deal with the big animal for Yu Yue to come to save Lu Zhaoge with his hand and claws and holds on this time. This man works as planned as every time the main character says otherwise, not afraid of strong enemies. After that, he turned to look at him with a disgusting face, so I had to waste the experience of accumulating miserable 20 years to wheeze a pig's head. In the end, it is still a sigh of shaking your head, not worthy of this world. This world is very good. The resource must manage. The experience of the experience must be used for things like the new idea. Lu Zhaoge suddenly turned to look at him and smirked. But if I had any anyway, this guy had not given the name of the pig's brain. Like this little guy came here to worship the money, but you could go. But the money could not ignore Lu Zhaoge. What was thinking about how expressive the Xiao still kept his face with a lot. Chen Xiao immediately clasped his hands and obeyed obedience to the Grand Master. Looking down at the flying carpet, the other leaf Chen Xiao secretly thought that it was not the most died. Which chat the most died king? Chat was the poisonous Dharma security of the elder. Chen Xiao blackface eyebrow again, annoyed phase and look like this must also RRP11 waiting already. At this time he suddenly remembered Yu Yue and Aunt King this time. Yu Yue brother went down the mountain with the elder king, but not that, not the same. Thinking. Then he looked towards Lu Zhao. Maybe the main subject is the mysterious brother that Yu Yue said. The more he thought that he began to fear himself down the mountain this time. Besides going to work, a bit of the task of distributing cultivation resources for several small sects of Kiev Tong. There was a secret task of investigating the mysterious brother of Yu Yue brother. Recalling the conversation not long ago of the two Yu Yue brother, once told himself, among the sects of the sword Tong, with one who was the rival of his brother, who was the big jest opponent of that brother. But for a few years, Yue did not mention that brother, even though only one word of Chen Xiao began to pale a few more. But recently, after Yu Yue brother and the elder king came back to travel, Nguyen stood on the rock and took the sword and told Chen Xiao this time, even though we earn a great idea, but the same brother was always a step before me. Yu Yue grabbed the sword tightly for Chen Xiao in the back. Bewildered, we have to try harder. Chen Xiao's cold sweat began to pour out. The mysterious brother, always a step before the step of Yu Yue. The brother who achieved the idea of the mountain. The story of this brother became more and more exaggerated in The Wanderer, so I rushed to investigate the news. He raised his hand to wipe the sweat on his forehead and asked Yue brother to know that the mysterious brother in the dragon fruit area of the southern region, where the dragon fruit area was not the upper subject. Chen Xiao hurriedly chased after Lu Zhaoge, but it was very clear that the name was capable of. Seeing the person in front of the eyes, Chen Xiao frowned. regardless of how we have to look up clearly, just to find that mysterious brother. From now on we have a common secret. Thinking of this drawing, his face began to be extremely strong. He thought that with Yue brother to share the secret. Luo Bing glanced back to look at him, feeling something wrong. Why this guy kept looking at the prince. She hurriedly told Lu Zhao Go the name of the name behind us to use the bizarre eyes to look at him so that we can teach him a lesson. This statement made him extremely surprised to look back at Lu Zhao. Ge tightly clenched his hand and said that he did not know where to come from to let him teach him a lesson. Luo Bing began to think improperly to ask the lesson like that. How did it be? Lu Zhao frowned and uncomfortably glanced at Luo Bing, who was blushing and sucking the beak for us to talk more about the subject. Luo Bing was scolded and bowed his head silently and quietly, thinking that he had thought about that kind of bizarre story. But after all, after she looked up at the person in front of the shape of the prince, she was engraved in this heart, and everyone did not attempt to rob. Suddenly something had feathers flying across the spot of Lu Zhaoge and Luo Bing. Lu Zhaoge was startled to shield and slowly opened his eyes. It is a hug bird on the top of it, still carrying another person. That person holds the bottle of the lake, constantly drinking water. The woman in front of Lu Zhaoge, as if she could not believe his eyes, he was bewildered for a few seconds. To put his hand to call two masters? But after saying that, the big bird flew away, that speed causing Chen Xiao to be in the sword, and the cardboard was also shouting and shouting. Lu Zhaoge looked at the person in front of him, but could not reunite, extremely uncomfortable in his heart, silently intended to seem to be the fate of the two of us. Yet if the person had appeared here, so we would definitely have a day to meet again. Lu Zhaoge looked at the person in front of him, but could not reunite, extremely uncomfortable in his heart, silently intended to seem to be the fate of the two of us. Yet if the person had appeared here, so we would definitely have a day to meet again. Below this, Lu Dongli and Xiao Chu observed from the beginning to the end, extremely attentive to the little girl. Chu asked the master's first person to return to the same way. Of course Xiao lost his sword. He was dropping free to fall into the ground. Rumbling a sound, he appeared a hole in the place where he fell. Lu Dongli and Xiao Qiu saw the first person down, as if he predicted he was happy to beat his hand. At Kangjinmen, the elder conference, Xiatu sat at the top of the conference table saying that the people kept arguing. They finally decided to make the last one to bring Momen. How many resources to be enough here? The gray-haired beard, his beard stroked the beard without a man who had a way to show the heart of my sect, and did not lose too much. The remaining people immediately folded the level quickly and said that he was so long that it turned out to be still planned. The elders frowned and said that each of us sent some beautiful disciples a little, and then sent through it. The remaining three were helplessly black, looking at his grandfather. If he wanted to die, don't pull us. This side in the Linlong they talk is like that, but the man, she smiled wryly and glanced at the back without a man at all. But a little flesh could not be solved if it was really not a little bit. The disciples behind everyone are excited to blush and take turns to scramble for us to choose. Now this is a matter of great fact that it is necessary to send the most beautiful person among all the foreign disciples and Shen Qing from in the crowd to come out to send some things to go to this socialist. Please be more secure, asking people to be more assured that I meet you more. Lin Long used an unpleasant slanted eye to glance at the thought of a bunch of things that you did not intend to let me go and want to monopolize the bait of the stone porridge bowl. Shen Qing, King eyes glowed with the master will definitely choose to go to the rain to surround the body. Suddenly the sound of Lin Long shouted at Phi Swordmail. Shen Qing King saw that the thought of Phi Kiev could not help but look at the appearance of Phi Kiev. Just why transmitted the letter at this time? Lin Long took the shin to open and watched it. She was extremely happy too good. When reading the content in the transmission of both Lin Long and Zhang Chou, both smiled sinister and said that the disciple of the sword Tong was also the legendary disciple of the second elder to the place where we divided this story. This is also really. After saying that, she pointed to the disciples and told everyone that everyone told the master to tell Lin Long and Zhang Chou to turn to look at each other and continue to laugh and smile. The disciples bowed to them and prepared to go on duty. It is true that any teacher who heard the good news from his owner immediately turned to the second face to think of the moment of shine, and the disciple of the foot of the sword, the fiancé who did not want to become a phoenix. How could he be the elder of the old lady? Why did anyone think that he felt fascinated by the headline, and followed by Zhang Chou's instructions to the feet of his disciples all the time to take care? That transmission to us at any cost must find out to be new. He will continue to say to find it all at all costs, to be assigned to him with a special situation that allows the use of forced strength. Lin Long's prostitutes heard everyone excited and said bad things. The only one who had only one person stop dividing, why this still did not know what to do, who did not like the girl around. But another technique also spoke and said and touched his chest. Just need to be meticulous enough to grind the iron, and even if he wanted to go down, Long Cuu's disciples standing beside, hearing those gossip also felt disgusting and talking to each other, but still not found the person who had started to be Pebbles, and everyone who had thought that the man we were so disgusted. Why would we find him and he would have a peach garden? Hearing every word of the other gate, the girls just pleased anyone immediately raised their sexy legs to provoke, and said that the Singer they will not hesitate to interact with you a bit, just criticizing those women who heard that invitation. They all lost all their faces and rushed to each other to compete for us. The other only knew that they were helplessly to tell you guys. The scene is that while Kang Jinmen and the they Reca Fen Momen, who is also fighting against the fight. Next is the scene between Nanwei Luobing and Zhaoge. When he saw his attorney, he returned to the Dong with his disciple to welcome the elder brother to return to welcome the Grand Master. Suddenly from the ground, anyone who is crawling up is Chen Xiao has just stood up. He immediately angrily scolded Mo Men, the people who made him superficially. Mo Men very good but dared to dare. But immediately saw the image of the two beautiful beauties of Mo Men, he blanked out. The eyes widened. All the silly nose bleeding, very silly, thinking that Mo Men tiny and two beauties have two such great female monks revolving around that guy is what? Thinking back so unfair instead of his life, immediately muttered, not right. He immediately, and his face to talk to the sword. Tong was the first galaxy, the death of the elder of the old man, the future of Kiev. Tong is the powerful arm of the head of the sword. Tong who admires this tiny Mo Men. In his own, he confidently stroked his hair and talked. But seeing the fate of the girl, he once again gasped and shouted at the second sight. Looking at that girl compared to that face, he again opened his mouth to think that his AG was smaller than Lu Zhaogui, but he had the strength that he could not match if it was compared in the ranks of this Mo Men disciple. As soon as he thought he was afraid of Mo Men, he was really crouched to look at the two of them in front of him as if he did not believe his eyes. Looking at Chen Xiao so scared, Zhaogui immediately proudly his disciple was not bad at home. Tu Lei Tu really knew that he could help him to blow his face to the sky. After praising, he and his two disciples were prepared to go to the representative. Afterward, he turned to look at Chen Xiao, thinking that this was the best opportunity to seize Chen Xiao. He could not miss him to the last minute after the last minute. The money of Chen Xiao is not all, the Grand Master. Dongli invited Chen Xiao to go with me, that he was embarrassed and blushed, and saw the expression of Chen Xiao Dongli, who thought of the three disciples. The conversion is to the magnificent great palace that has just come to Chen Xiao, overwhelmed with the image, and thought of Mo Men's architecture compared to some of the central sects they visit through even more metal. And see Zhaogui's shining image when standing in the shining sunlight. The more he doubted and thought that this Lu Zhaogui's name was really mysterious, brother, Yue said. Lu Zhaogui sat there dressed in a careful tailor-made outfit that floated with a solemn temperament, his face comfortably offered all his hand. Chen Xiao saw Lu Zhaogui saying that there was no guest, but pulled the chair and sat down to sit down. Luo Bing to see that he was about to sit down. When he held the teapot with a hospitable face, he came forward. Chen Xiao saw the appearance of her behind. When turned out to the face full of astonished face, on the handsome face full of embarrassment, she came to pour tea for himself. Why did he wonder if the distance was almost like smelling the fragrance on her body? He continued to ask himself in his heart, and then he smelled something and closed his eyes and enjoyed his real smile. He exclaimed, however, life is not always the way we want. Soon he realized that there was something unusual. Why did I not smell anything? He inhaled his nose to try to smell again. The face of Xiao was bewildered and turned to search for the shadow of Luo Bing. She is now standing away from him 2 meters away, and in some miraculous way, Luo Bing is pouring tea without letting any drop of any drop. He looks so bewildered, surprised to turn on his back. Lu Zhaoguidong Le exerted her exhausted face, looking at her actions that needed that, but he wondered if the other boy was not hurt. She wondered, but contrary to the attitude of the two small people she looked at. Luo Bing with a brighter eye than the bizarre tutors who wanted to learn tea. Chen Xiao looked at Luo Bing like that, then bowed his face and signed in a breath without saying that she said that with everyone. Maybe everyone should not think too much. He thought of himself to encourage himself. The stream of thought that had just raised his head to see Luo Bing, who was welcoming, stood close to the brother pouring the prince to drink. He was filled with his head and questioned whether this scene was real or blurred by the side. He looked at this screen. He was angry and gritted his teeth and his hand. He could not help but squeeze the cup more and more, the more he looked into the pieces. Could it be that because the fate of the foot of the sword of the second elder sword Tong, the future of her swordplay is so threatening, the person she can't stand, why he still tries to comfort himself? Seeing him be bewildered, Lu Zhaogui could not see any more, but had to pretend to cough a few to pull him out of the world of imagination. Chen Xiao also noticed his appearance and immediately became another new person just now. But this time, this moment has shaped a big disciple of the throat of the Grand Master of the Grand Master. He asked the slightly sip of tea in his surprise, looking at him in front of him. His heart was full of doubt and dissatisfaction with this wobbly guy. Why didn't he have money to spend money quickly? And when you still want to stay at Lu Zhaogui, screaming in your heart. Luo Bing stood beside him to notice his attitude. The friendly smile opened his words to the brother, to Mo Men, with the same why she asked Chen Xiao. Seeing that she asked, she also made the president's hand on her mouth to cough a few things that needed to discuss him briefly. But it was not good in her heart. She was an underground wave. She called me a brother here. Finally, the two new people in this issue. This time, we come to distribute cultivation resources for the subjects of the sword of the Mo Men. Mo Men. Then he spoke out to take out a ring and then said, this is the part of Mo Men. In this spirit with spiritual spirit also has gas training materials. Lu Zhaogui saw that he took the ring out, although the outside was serious, but in his heart he was filled with excitement of the material training material that Aunt King was playing or practicing. Okay, then waved a stream of water surrounding Lu Zhaogui. Chen Xiao saw that the water appeared, surprised the heavenly force. He did not believe in his eyes that water took that ring. Then transmitted to Lu Zhaogui Chen Xiao to look at this screen, the eyes of a mouth. Oh, he used to start the spirit already. Chen Xiao saw that his face was happy and tricky. He was definitely a mysterious brother, and thought that his heart was jubilant like opening a festival. But he doesn't know in Lu Zhaogui's consciousness is countless genius gemstones to the gods. Despite excitement, But in the face, you still have to do the price of the duty to receive items. And then there is another disciple you say, the duty to know. In addition to going to distribute your resources, if you have any tasks. He asked for the welfare of Kiev Tong to also help the disciple of the Sword Tong, who is the responsibility of the Sword Tong. Thinking that I could not hide anymore, Chen Xiao finally said that my mission this time was because of the love of transit. His words made the three women in the room surprised to widen the eyes of the race in transit. Q asked. Lu Zhaoge smashed the sword on the table, make it radiate tremendously where he asked in a scary but solemn voice. Chen Xiao saw that Prestigi also had to step back a few steps. Others heard this story, probably soon came back, but he only asked a question where he was horned with fever without believing what his ears had just heard. He heard that then the satisfied smile was the sword from a battle of misery, which was that metal. Love tu is not an essence nor love of two people, but a practice of forced to reconcile their own blood with the beast, but Tan. Lu Zhaoge heard what Chen Xiao said, began to think of the information that he had, because after reconciliating with the blood of the beast, they became great, but at the same time drinking blood and flesh. He remembered the scene of a loving child who was shocking the arm of a person. Why is getting more and more wrong? Finally becoming a monk, leaving the establishment of this world. But why let me get blood vessels associated with this monster? Someone wondered if the strongest point of love was that they could manipulate the blood vessel beasts that were connected to them, making the battle energy several times so that... But the beast at Tain Huyen. The world is a completely different species than the love of the beast, does not have much specialty of bloody aggression, especially mature, thanks to eating rice and forgetting to eat human meat. The beast based on the annexation to strengthen if you fall into the hands of a monk will definitely occur, so the love of cultivation in the spiritual world is recognized as the champion, except for a few super-level geniuses. Most people do not dare to face them directly to face them. Because not only high strength can also both beat the elevator to say blank is to turn on the hack. Moreover, the love of the clan compared to the practitioner on the planet when practicing into a fairy taboo is also a bit different without a limited ink paper that does not want to mention so much. So all the practice sects are instructed by his disciples if he encountered a monk of the same level with him. Back to the scene where the male lead, Lu Zhaoge Chen Xiao, seriously said the information of this mission of the Grand Master. According to the news that Kiev Tong has this love name, the second scene has a few beasts to follow. Lu Zhaoge heard that did not say anything, just too weak. It was not it. He was disappointed, and unfortunately that state had caught the eye of Chen Xiao. Why he was a bit disappointed. He wondered if he could dig any information about it from this love name. Lu Zhaoge picked up the sword. The face of this disciple thought that if there was a need to ask for help, let's talk. But we were forced to go. He was determined in the heart. Chen Xiao saw that he found that there was a strange hard face that did not know what to say. Discovering the whereabouts of the love of the Long Lu master can accompany us a trip. He clasped his hands in the direction he offers the request. But who knows in the heart of the boy is the other intention that leads him to accompany his true strength, if he is definitely the mysterious brother. If it was not so strong for the disciple to spread the second sword of the second scene, the fullness of the fullness personally took action to take care of the monk to remove the dignity in front of him as expected of an arrow hit the two targets. At this moment, the notice of the player displays the player to activate the mission of the love of the transit clan, accepts the task of 50,000 experiences, the French repair coupon X1. Lu Zhaoge looked up at the notice bar in the heart of thinking like, we data. Indeed, activate the mission. Successfully accept the notification system again. This disciple is duty to meet the requirements of people tomorrow and you come down to the mountain to love. Lu Zhaoge said to respond, but his eyes did not bother to glance at people, and also thanks to his sentence that made him blankly as if he was obediently, he reluctantly responded to the face full of unpleasant cravings. He was sobbing in his heart, and finally he left him to look at his back and left. But Long speculated that he would go to the mountain to become a fairy of this place as Mo Men's land. He affirmed that he wanted to cause a disaster to ask the sword in his hand that allows you to not kill his eyes. Kasinger forgot to ask how the tam gathered. Then at this time, Lu Dongli went forward to open the breaking at the atmosphere like the string. Just now she said that she glanced at Luo Bing and stood in a disgruntled side, filled with the opposite of me, and the intimate sin, Jur was so bad that I did not quickly avoid my face. Lu Zhaoge saw that then all talked about Luo Bing to tell his master. Hearing him say, Luo Bing just waited until this minute was happy with the Grand Master, and she still swelled her face full of angry. This is like the Grand Master Ba Tu 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 Thu. They Mon and Kang Jinmen even more solemnly rebuilt for Momen. She said her hands were happy and happy like a fairy. Lu Zhaoge heard Luo Bing say that the nose lifted to the sky so arrogant, the sweet and small mouth made others agree. Lu Dongli now stood on one side, then rubbed his chin to ponder the prediction. No 1785, the they and Kang Jinmen. He saw that his younger sister was silent for a while, and was strangay, and couldn't help but ask Dong Li the elder's dreaming. Seeing Lu Zhaoge asked her also quickly turned around in a daily appearance, but who knows in her heart she is thinking about having hundreds of thousands of people who have confirmed that they Mon and Kang Jinmen are unable to come to the place to do not need to worry too much. Thinking about something she looked down on her face seriously, watching Lu Zhaoge asking the shift tomorrow, to go down the mountain to, except for the love to lead, so that she could not love the great cultivation. She thought that the person who made him Lu Zhaoge did not know what his sister thought, but he glanced at him, and knew what he thought in his heart was worried about himself. As soon as he thought he looked at a serious dong beside her, she saw him staring at him, but did not give the answer. The question of why he did not say anything. If he dared to refuse himself, he would pinch his ear. He really hurts. She truly thought about the scene of her pinching, and her brother was so painful that she knelt to the ground. Lu Zhaoge also did not refuse but did not say the agreement, he just said it. But just a saying that made Lu Dongli excited and cheerful like a child was so great that he came back somewhere to hear that he laughed pampered to take the personality of the East. How could he not go if he could not go if he was no more than Chen Xiao? He still had a secret weapon that really liked soot. Lu Zhaoge exclaimed that Luo Bing stood on one side, so the anxiety appeared on the beautiful face of the prince and the master. All of them were discharged into Danguerre. How could she sit still in one place? Just broke the line of thought, Luo Bing, who ran after the two grandmasters. She said, but did not say the sentence. Lu Dongli knew what Luo Bing wanted to do, but turned around angry but interrupted even just straight at her face, making you bewildered, not dreaming that Luo Bing saw that, so shocked. I was not even said at all. As if she knew that Luo Bing would continue to follow her to decide to reach the end, not dream of robbing my singing, she was determined. Lu Chaoga noticed the two of them but also moved up to rub Luo Bing's head, making her hard again this time. He said Lu Dongli stood on one side of Angered cheeks, without looking at more terrifying love than what he thought so much with his current monk. Not only did he not help, but also become a burden of us. He clearly stated that the situation she is beside also responded to the effort to wait for children with us and then count on, ending the two people's shoulder and walking out of the door, leaving Luo Bing alone standing there. Luo Bing looked at the silhouette of the two of them, when they were sprawling with the thoughts they had forgotten the sun for a long time, and did not break through, so they were kept by their monks. But now they can break through. Moreover, the breakthrough is too fast, and then it is so fast that the face of her face is worried. If the gap is increasingly bigger and bigger, it will be like what the teacher still says, not only to help anyone, but become a burden. Luo Bing thought of that. But the sad face must make more efforts that he had to stand beside the sun. He had to become the only one that the dude needed. Luo Bing to look at the silhouette of the two more and more determined in his heart. The night gradually falls. In the room of the male lead, Lu Zhaoge at this time, he is cultivating the cave full of drunkenness of every green air surrounding his body, as well as the experience room plus 999, experimental points plus 998, experience points 1000. But suddenly from his mouth he took a mouthful. Before he could calm down to other people, he lost his own reason to lose his own resources. Suddenly, from the gap of the window, a thread of purple smoke gradually flew in. Global in front of Lu Zhaoge, he just looked at what this was, the smoke on the tomb of Hung. He was not sure that he asked, his face worriedly looking at that smoke to find me. Why did he ask the smoke as well as the answer? At this time at a moon tomb, now the scene is so scary. Lu Zhaoge went to the tomb, speculating for a while. He asked if he wanted to give us the current blood. He couldn't know whether he had refused immediately. Purple smoke did not answer him, but pointed to a certain direction. Lu Zhaoge looked in the direction of it, only to see a room that was brightly lighted by Chen Xiao. He wondered if he did not say no, that turned into a knife at his surprise. Then it slashed two lines to form an X sign. Lu Zhaoge looked at what it meant, but his face looked exhausted, and was so helpless to kill him. But he only received a shake of his head from the purple air, seeing its denial of Lu Zhaoge in a state of doubt, or to the extreme, not to kill him. He asked again, and then the person who talked about the last love Lu Zhaoge also understood. But very quickly, he asked, what you need to love from. Purple airflow does not say just on his body. Seeing its actions, Lu Zhaoge opened his eyes to be surprised that you need the body of the love of him. He did not believe it again. Please do not ask why. Lu Zhaoge can guess the idea of the servant when pointing to the person who requires the body of the story behind is always very terrorist. Lu Zhaoge stood in front of Hung to ask him, so you want to complete? Or Hung nodded and was startled when he heard him say, it turns into a human identity and then explodes the head to make up for an hour. Lu Zhaoge nodded his face as if he had understood without understanding. Then he showed a sigh to say to the palace, you also knew that the mighty monk, even if I face them, also need to take action in such a situation that you ask me to only slash his head. Lu Zhaoge's voice suddenly changed his terrible face, and raised his hand to signal with Hung to add money to see the appearance with his purpose. Seeing it has no reaction, Lu Zhaoge the set goes away, and then says, how to play the game that extends the time. Why you this time, if you do not increase the money, and see his tone of Feng startled one. Finally, it stretched out his tail to bring in front of Lu Zhaoge a book. His face winked to Changje 180 degrees, smiling immediately, with his hands reaching out to hold the book. But the Feng is not easy to give it to jerk the book to make Lu Zhaoge dive into the air. Lu Zhaoge Tu Sai looked at the palace and pretended to be the person's personnel, and the army huffed for a, you still want a hand to give a hand of a jade hand, though not intelligent but not stupid. The words had just stopped, his eyes suddenly widened in surprise. The book of Feng is that the sword of Lu Zhaoge's voice is full of horror when seeing this. The legend of the secret sword of the sword of the sword of the middle Bachman. Lu Zhaoge's eyes lit up in his mind full of this secret, higher than the life of the second Ma Tucan. It seems that in the house there is an old man, as if he had a treasure of this work he received, and added some rewards of his system's mission. He was considered to use all its functions already. Lu Zhaogu's hand put on the chin, a bit excited, and thought that Lam's sword was a little waiting for his previous life to use a large amount of money to make a technique of using Jiao Long to enter the middle of the medium product. Recalling the intersection of Long HAI has been used, Lu Zhaoge, unable to exclude the quintessence of this technique of using this spear, is to shoot out like a dragon. Lu Zhaogu's pupils are still full of reflection, but not leaving the book. Lamb Lower Products, that does not know if this meditation is the most revenue-earning, the most sword-of-sword meditation. He stopped thinking that he wanted to own the other thing, and pretended to be generous, and said that our feelings of this work accepted in his heart, that he was silently justifying himself, not because of the power of Lam Sword Dharma. Hung listened to Lu Zhaoge and nodded in agreement. After completing the transaction, it dissipates the style in front of him. Lu Zhaoge, his mirror, showed a very greedy smile that had just completed a slightly big mission. Now in the beginning could not help but think that in this hand, how many treasures he had to think about how to earn more treasures. At this time, Lu Zhaoge suddenly asked if you want this ghost's body to have any intentions. But in front of his eyes is a quiet array of no noise, which has long disappeared for a long time. After a while under the moonlight up, Lu Zhaoge also went down the mountain and muttered to anyone who could have doubted, but I also had a day to become a tool for others. The sunlight gradually pushed down the night to retreat. A shadow appeared in front of the door of the room. Lu Zhaoge voiced, Lu Zhaoge, so he was on the road. Lu Zhaoge sitting in the whole body of the whole body, also radiating the energy, as if he had just finished practicing the call. He heard the call, the discontent, and said that early in the morning he came to say some words like that. Soot, really hoping to go on the road. Outside the door of the dong, dressed like a male and smiling, he just wanted to experience the feeling and the villain a bit. Lu Zhaoge opened the door to let out the sound of Long Ten looking at Lu Dongli. Referring to this, Lu Dongli laughed very brightly and clapped the set into the small pocket on the side and looked at him and answered temporarily and then to go to sleep, to beat his teeth, to wash his face. Lime haunted to fight against the enemy to escape, the paperman was ready to finish. Hearing her tell a series of items that cowered fear, Lu Zhaoge put his hand and patted my soot to say that my soot was too cautious, and finally, so how to live a lament. But she smiled and followed Lu Zhaoge excitedly, saying Helene quickly called the disciple of the sword. Hearing this, Lu Zhaoge looked up at the sky and then responded to a word that seemed to be taking care of something serious face. Shortly thereafter, the whole subject rang the sound of Lu Zhaoge, the voice diffused to every corner of the gathering. The disciple came before Sun Mon, which gathered before Sun Mon, the voice of the voice that echoed in the ear. People had to remind many times. The name Chen Xiao woke up from the sleep that was still lying in the bed, but the ears of the whole word were very urgent. The morning bird was horrified by the collection of Lu Zhaoge mixed with the words without ending and hearing the angry screams of Chen Xiao's name not to call that disciple. The sun has risen, and Lu Zhaoge is going out to the outside of the observation surrounding a while. Lu Zhaoge just tried to think a little bit more, then forgot to wear the subject. I was also the place where there was a great paint in the battle. He went to a big tree to reach his hand to touch its surface. Lu Dongli stood beside Lu Zhaoge as if comforting him, not in a hurry to study the battle. And sooner or later there was a day when he would repair and restore the Hosun Diemo Dan Than. Dan Lu Zhaoge bringing his eyes down to feel the dust that was flying in the wind. Hearing the words of Lu Dongli, she glanced at her side to look at her face and thought that she would forget that soot did not have an attribute to 10, but each of them had 9 schools that were good at sailing. Thinking, he put it on the touch of Lu Dongli gently and gently said that I know that I want to be done after the mountain. Lu Zhaoge's eyes are calm. The corner of his mouth is a bit smiling in the rumor. Please satisfy his wish is also the responsibility of the singer. Lu Dongli could not help but look at Lu Zhaoge in the sunlight, calling a singing of both eyes to look at each other. Lu Zhaoge's eyes drooped down behind his inner hair, thinking that if he was a little far away, it would be a bit early. It would be good anyway. Suddenly from afar he ran as if he flew to the place where the 2 gate had just shouted at the Grand Master, but did not let him say all the sentence. Lu Zhaoge had opened it if this disciple had arrived. Then we started to go to Lu Dongli and also responded to the Grand Master, seeing that the 2 of them did not want to pee at herself. His face was very satisfied to tell the 2 brothers and surnames that did not have me. How could you start? Before the eyes of both the Dong and Zhaoge Chen Xiao, he raised his face to the sky to show off, to look carefully to find a bit of the whereabouts of love, Tu. He suddenly raised his hand to summon a glowing ball in the air, not knowing what he was going to do. From the hands of Chen Xiao there is something long showing off her bragging voice. Lu Dongli showed a stupid face looking at Chen. Xiao Lu Zhaoge also looked at him and then cut off the color of the color that was preparing to start the blood of specialized objects to find traces of the owner of the blood. Not to say quickly start the duty of not knowing anything of a long sentence of Lu Zhaoge making the hell of the blood of Chen Xiao hard. After that, he brought the blood to start reciting magic shortly after appearing a burning fire in his hand. His face was definitely thoughtful and thought that every time he gave himself a Lu Dongli looked at Chen Xiao practicing the magic behind him and couldn't help but wonder why he knew how to wear it. Lu Zhaoge heard that, worried about sweating and fuming up a reason for the fact that we were actually the first time I saw real things, but we have seen in a certain live stream, in some special situation, seeing a few people especially using the gap of this blood gas. Lu Dongli was manipulated by his brother's psychology. At this moment, Xiao in the hand holding the blood of the gas emanating the sound of suddenly speaking up, and then Lu Dongli forgot what Lu Zhaoge just spoke back to look curious. Chen Xiao flew up to the sword to go to the face that was very satisfied and excited with the gap. With the owner of the blood of this blood, the faster will shake quickly here. The blood in Chen Xiao's hand is even more intense. Lu Dongli stood in the air, his curious eyes stared at the blood of Chen Xiao and asked us that this item still had a special way to use it. Lu Zhaoge's face is like no longer being alive, sweating and sweating silently in the heart of MD, not careful to say a lot and then unable to teach children. He was bindish, his mind turned to look at Lu Donglin and stabbed garlic and thought that this item was very suitable to stab the garlic to hear Lu Zhaoge say that she believed that it was really enlightened and replied, so it was so. The blood in the hand of Xiao's hand is now more and more moving, making him hold with his hands and then tell the two people behind the aerodynamic blood. Very strongly, we are about to be able to grasp, and maybe here is. Hearing that, Lu Dongli looked down and surprised to ask for the forest. The bottom of the three people is a large forest of trees that all cover a firm red, so it is called the fire forest. Lu Dongli thought to the shot of the bronzes to kill the beast here. She turned to look at Lu Zhaoge and then said, "In this fire forest hidden a lot of beasts. If the love here will be more powerful, or we are." Hearing the hesitation of my sister's face, Lu Zhaoge standing against the sun showing an excited look, then down to the ghost not to let you taste the taste. Lu Dongli raised his hand to look bored with Zhaoge's expression, but complained in his heart. Chen Xiao stood on his sword and looked down at the forest of fire and thought in the heart of fire died filled with the spirit of the beast, if he was fighting with love here. Come to think of it, Chen Xiao brought his eyes and glanced back to evaluate the name Lu Master. What was he thinking? Lu Zhaoge, the excited face, said that then down so that you can try the taste of cooing, the let hearing this words and not from surprising why he was so excited. A few seconds later, if I was enlightened to something that I understood that my body was not a fear, and then looked at Lu Zhaoge and exclaimed that the Grand Mast. After that, all three plunged down below the forest with extremely fast speed. Chen Xiao was still excited on his sword. Lu Zhaoge looking at a mouth and could not help but draw a smile with two eyes full of expectation below all the beasts of the beast. More love, this place is not the plow furnace. True men must be because of the experience. Lu Zhaoge's legs landed on the ground covered with green grass. In front of all three of them are the hoog giant trees, all leaves with red face of Lu Zhaoge, showing a smile full of sinister love of the beasts you are surrounded by the old man here. The blood in the hands of Chen Xiao now moved very strongly on the bee. He moved, he was threatened to startle, and startled the shock of the very strong, loving Tu. Lu Zhaoge's unchanged face spoke before the way to go to Chen Xiao to hear that the whole person staggered with a drop of blood full of blood. He glanced at the hateful gaze to look at Lu Zhaoge, thinking that the way to lead the way will show you that my ability is really obnoxious, even if they are the Grand Master of the Bachman. He does not dare to call me like that. He is just the Grand Monk of the lower sect in the Bachman. The three continued to go ahead of the blood, and the sound of the bee behind appeared a few snakes looking at them with emotional eyes. Blood air now moves too much, basically cannot keep the sounds of bees emanating loudly. Chen Xiao went ahead, leading the way to try to hold the blood, and open mouth to open the notice very close, and everyone carefully. Lu Zhaoge's eyes fell into the blood in his hand, and then thought that he would suddenly want to see if he took that blood in the throat of the Tu, would he flutter to the point of flying? In his mind, he recalled the silhouette of his parents, and his face down. But unfortunately, if Mo Men also had blood, he could have followed him to find his child to kill his parents. Their purpose of this time is to find love and beasts that will eat each other, even if they are fellow who want to complete the mission of the servant. Not easily. Those beasts are not just eating the brain. Lu Zhaoge put his hand to recite the miracle on the ring on his hand and thought of the beasts they would gnaw the body to a debris. Lu Dongli used hidden magic and then said first to hide the atmosphere. Chen Xiao saw that she performed the magic of the French. She could not help but be surprised and stared at this kind of tactics, but she could not be as well as her as she could. At this moment, in a nearby grass, it was a rustling sound that was suspicious, and immediately went into the defense to prepare to attack the handle in the hilt of the sword, saying loudly, if we had hidden the air, it would come a little closer to us. Suddenly, one hand of Lu Zhaoge placed on his shoulder and calmly said not to go up. Chen Xiao puzzledly turned to ask what you did. So I wanted to go sneaking a little bit, then you would prevent me from doing anything. Lu Zhaoge's face was slightly dark and seriously said because we were revealed. Before the surprise of the other two, the bright red iron is looking at them like prey. From the evening, the two beasts rushed out to attack all three people who know how to fly the black beast. LV-21 one another. Like the lion is the heterogeneous shy, LV-25. Seeing their appearance jerked down and shouting like losing all the beasts. Behind Dongli and Zhaoge also entered the position of Lu Zhaoge's fighting position to the front, and still calmly saying, so how to handle it. Chen Xiao's eyes seemed to fall out, and then the black dog also rushed towards him. It screamed to reveal the sharp mouth full of the hands of Lu Zhaoge. Gay touching the hilt of the sword in his hand and carrying his spiritual energy, he looked contemptuously shouting at something that screamed to explode your dog's head. After that, a sword of Lu Zhaoge hit the head of the black dog of the power source. Chen Xiao stood below, observed that he thought that his body was a monk, so he had to be afraid of being a practitioner. The black dog had just fallen to the ground behind Lu Zhaoge, and appeared the HOI tiger to sneak him from behind it and run quickly to reach his big strokes and scratch him. But that big ruffled nail could touch the Lu Zhaoge. He was slashed by a blade. The painful child immediately looked at Chen Xiao, who had just slashed him, and then ruffled with a murderous sound of Lu Zhaoge glancing at the person looking behind him. Chen Xiao did not turn around and opened his mouth to say a sentence that was full of temperament behind the back of the subject. Lu Zhaoge looked at him, smirking in appreciation in this small son temporarily accepted. The black dog crashed to the ground, now stood up aggressively, screaming a Lu Zhaoge, watching him laugh and say, "Now I can comfortably skewer you already." After that, a person who had an animal came back to fight the spiritual energy from Lu Zhao, go to radiate extremely strongly, which made the black promotion repeatedly cried out. Chen Xiao tilted his head to look at a small sentence of the Grand Master, who was so energetic that he was the legendary disciple of the sword, Tong Tru's legend of the second elder of the best friend of the sword. Tun Thi Du could not be lagged back. It sounds like being showing off. Then he flew up to the tiger to cut a few dozen roads to it. Lu Zhaoge is fighting, also surprised to glance at him. But what caught his eyes was not a drama match like a stupid swing a sword, so that he had the same atmosphere as a child playing the tiger. He did not know why he was trembling, as if he was scared of Lu Zhaoge. He was not energetic to appreciate Xiao. From behind Lu Zhaoge, the black dog rushed to attack. When he glanced at the sharpness of the sharp teeth and its open mouth, Lu Zhaoge thought that he did not use his will. He would not hurt him more than that of the love of the other. He was always hiding in the dark place, obviously preparing to think about Lu Zhaoge. If he was so, he would not rely on his hands anymore. After that, he brought his sword to the sky, surrounded by the mysterious black air, a rumbling sound of the black air promoting the great power to hit the black dog, creating a huge bud covered by black spiritual energy. Lu Dongli escaped from a nearby tree, happily whispered to the end of the shift, and he should have given an idea and should be so early. Even if he killed an ant, he should cope carefully. He also had to use the Strongest technique to capture the user of the nuclear bullet that was mentioned in the legend that you were exposed. Chen Xiao holding the sword, but his face was surprised to say that the words of his eyes glued to Lu Zhaoge, that the HOI tiger was ignored to look extremely sorry for the voice. Chen Xiao's inner mind is now that he is probably that mysterious brother, is definitely always at this AG. Even if you are Yu Yue brother, you can just make a new idea. But he was a genuine arrogant, because he was looking at the shadow of the back of the black air of Lu Zhaoge. Chen Xiao even more asserted that his speculation was only this cruel love to be the opponent of the sword of the youth sword. Yu Yue brother, that's right. Yu Yue brother is the lower sword, but the face of Chen Xiao seems to realize something, so he is definitely the contemporary sword. There are two people in the lower sword, so it is not right. Chen Xiao now suddenly burst into tears, somewhere a little complacent. He raised his head to the sky and said to show that the sword of our religion was about to incense. The HOI tiger was like a big dog that was stupid on the spot when he saw the excessive expression of Chen Xiao. He brought his claws and scratched his mouth and shook his head and thought that in this human heart suddenly did not slash himself anymore. And there was crazy. Here, this is not a good opportunity for me to attack Star. Stopping the inanimate moments of the tiger and rushing towards Chen Xiao, it reached out to look at this person with the cold red eyes of the beast of the beasts of Gren. In his mind, that was sure one thing now did not bite. He still waited until when, but Chen Xiao is complacent and now has felt the light of the blue charm looking backwards and shouting someone up. The huge arm of HOI tiger crashed straight into Chen Xiao's body. The force of beating him away from a piece of crashing into the tree, not far away from Lu Zhaoge, widened his eyes widely. Looking at Chen Xiao beaten by the leaf shield in the front was almost broken. LV30 being beaten by LV25 to look so good that this guy was protected by the sword Tong. The overwhelming tiger broke up and opened his mouth with a rushing mouth towards Chen Xiao. Lu Zhaoge gives a sound of bringing the sword on the spirit, emanating more and more faces, a bit dark, and not many assertive words, to look closely here to see what the male is trained in the fresh blood. A slash from the sword descended to the lake, wanted to tear the sky. The HOI tiger is rushing, then falling down to the ground to create a huge beam. Lu Zhaoge calmed down without any tired or urgent disciples of something of sword Tong. I don't have to look down on the enemy. Chen Xiao stood below his hand to perform the ceremony with Lu Zhaoge Tu Sai flying in the air, respectfully responding to the Grand Master. The corner of Lu Zhaoge's mouth couldn't help but to appreciate this little son. It seemed that he was about to be captured by himself. At this moment, a whirling sound appears in the ears of both of them. Lu Zhaoju's sharp eyes glanced at the sound source. The footsteps rang when touching the ground. Two more beasts appeared from the ball to a smile, and it was unable to love the Malang LV27, another beast. LV26. LV26. The numbness opened the voice of a monk who was the best practice, but also demanded to kill my dog in front of him. Love to Malang has just said that he ordered the black beast to eat him. You can grow out a more perfect wings. The black beasts of the dog herd that suddenly became much more violent. Then the ugly guy pointed to the side of Chen Xiao Dakchi and said, the legendary disciple of the sword was the prey of the old man. Chen Xiao on this side swung the sword, slashing the beast in a row. If you hear love and say that you will be confident that you are looking down on the Grand Master, the ugly end still does not know the strength of Lu Zhaoge, so he still laughs sarcastically from the second scene. Chen Xiao now has free hands and continues to provoke love from the Malang Lu Major, not the kind of person you can guess nowhere now. After finishing, Chen Xiao stood up his face and smiled like a crazy guy who saw him like that and thought that that little guy was given the disease. On the side of Lu Zhaoge, black dog is flying around him. After observing the opponent, Lu Zhaoge decided to use that technique, even though finished using it the mana. Right at the time when the black dog opened his mouth towards Lu Zhaoge attack, Then Lu Chaoga just stand still using the great bull. He used the blade to slash down on the black head. A single slash but made Hack Do advise to fall down on the ground. Officially go to the adoration. Love Tumalang witnessed this scene. He could not help but panic that he could grind that how could my black pat? Chen Xiao is now sitting on the foot of the beast, who has just been destroyed by me to answer the question of the ugly guy I said, but the Grand Master will sooner or later become the second person in this age outside the mouth. But in his heart he still praises because the first person is definitely your brother then. Suddenly the system showed a notice of the player who killed the black beast. At present, at level 17, Lu Zhaoga sweaty people who are sweating and wiping up, receiving the notice that Mr. Hai thinks that he can kill a dog with 20,000 promotions, a level of 18,000 this case, and then promote level. Just finished, Lu Zhaoga immediately used 18,000 points to promote level 18. The promotion process is very comfortable, Lu Zhaoga happily enjoying the feeling of full blood full of pleasant mana. The breakthrough of Lu Zhaoga made Lu Dongli and Chen Xiao also very surprised and did not believe in his eyes to think that the Grand Master was broken again and again. Although surprisingly, Lu Dongli was still prouder than she thought about a future of playing without looking at the consequences of the breakthrough singing, and then he broke up too much if he continued like that. He would not be able to play with the back of his back. Look at Lu Zhaoga's back shadow. Lu Dongli imagined more excitement. Before I could imagine, Lu Dongli suddenly remembered Luo Bing. The department immediately emerged. Why in this world there is a creature called the Death? Contrary to the excitement of this Lu Dongli Xiao, this side seriously thought that the Grand Master chose to choose now to break the most important scene. Why? Chen Xiao wondered and suddenly understood, answering the question of himself. Understood. And then the Grand Master wanted to defeat the love of two in this realm, to suppress the practice of fighting with others, which is probably the training that Lu Mon, love to Ma Long, suffered damage. But he did not intend to give in to him, and laughed but did not know why you said it was second. But I would turn you into a part of me here. He smirked and said to Chen Xiao, and I will touch him first. Lu Chaoga has just finished breaking up happily with his hand towards the love of the Ma Lang. Smiling, the ugly name hid in his coat, he did not dare to meet the other person. The ugly guy heard that he was furious and fiery. Then Lu Zhaoga continued to provoke, not to pay attention to those small details, doing the ugly guy coming here to kill the ant and not know the amount of his strength is me knee. Being provoked to the hot face of the Ma Lang pointing at Lu Zhaoga, ordering his monster to kill him for me. Just finished a person who rushed to attack Lu Zhaoga. But everything is so easy, not running to the place of Lu Zhaoga. The numbness was Cheney Xiao used a trick to slash the body on the spot. Love to Malang now witnessed the beast exploded into thousands of dead pieces in front of him. Chen Xiao put the sword in the hilt of the back, emitting a loud sound, turning around with a cold face, saying that the animal you raised was not qualified to approach the Grand Master. Chen Xiao relieved a sigh of breathing on this sweaty face using all his spiritual energy, and luckily at the last moment, all the cold sweat was put back. Then this sword was launched. Lu Dongli stood behind to see the complacent of Chen Xiao, so he did not say that this guy used the spirit to push cold sweat behind his back, did not want to let the Singer see, and really like the medical case when the thief used this small style. Immediately the eyes of the same loudly learned the quintessence. Love Tu Ma Lang saw the numbness falling down, then hugging his head shouted in the helplessness, "Why did you fall here?" Love Tu Ma Lang, poking his hand into the body of the pangolin numbness. "You will be assured, I will definitely revenge for you." Chen Xiao and Lu Dongli saw that simultaneously, became amazed to say that he said that he wanted to take the goblin between the love, and they could eat each other's meat with each other. Love Tu Ma Lang becomes more crazy than ever before, showing a bright red sphere that emits a blinding red light, waiting to kill these two gate. "I will take the blood of a whole village of your soul." Love Tu Ma Lang opened his mouth with two quite good teeth, preparing to swallow the newly taken on the body of tea. "Now let's become a part of me, continue to live." Suddenly one hand appeared. "Do not let the love of the Ma Lang fulfill his intention." A sound of red pearls disappeared in the surprise of the Ma Lang Tu. The red ball was robbed by Lu Zhaoge tightly in the palm of the ironic hand, crying and eating the world of the crazy love of you. Lu Dongli saw that his brother was happy to be extremely strong and stronger and stronger. Chen Xiao also raised the thumb to appreciate the power of the Grandmaster, without regretfully praising the Grandmaster, who also knew how to not take things anymore. Love Tu Ma Lang saw that his hand was blatantly robbed now in the hands of Lu Zhaoge. He could not help but shout angrily to me, "That was mine." Lu Zhaoge brings a victorious face to collect the red sphere. "Say anything, then even if your body is mine, and then think about it anyway." Dongli and Chen Xiao silly in his head posed many question marks that did not understand the idea of Lu Zhaoge. He immediately corrected the bizarre thought in your head. The eyes of the Ma Lang's love flashed with a sharp purple tooth, which looked extremely indignant that you forced me. "All the beasts of the fire-dyed lamb awakened all for us. Summon the source of dark power." All the beasts were gradually awakened towards the source of the scary purple power. The beasts bared the sharp puffed teeth. Chen Xiao looked at the surrounding scenery, worried and not good. Then the animal of this forest was called up, and then if we did not stop him, we would face all the beasts in this forest. Lu Dongli was equally panicked, but still patiently counting each beast an increase to 15 children, not 18, 19. The number is still working overtime. She thought that once she appeared a specific situation, she could not hide the strength anymore, of the Singer, more important than the Singer. Love Tu Ma Lang found that the situation was leaning towards me. Then Dakchi laughed loudly. feared that I was the mighty of the love to kill you, and I will send them all the village in the 100-mile Ranju. However, the joy has not lasted for a long time. A hand from the country reached out, summarizing the neck of the Ma Lang. He panicked, and his hands were controlling the beast could not pay back. Lu Zhaoge attained the tricks you forgot already. There is no more beast can protect you anymore. The black and purple tentacles surrounded by the monk of the mausoleum at this time, to be afraid of the eyes, and white begging you. You will forgive me a life, I will not appear anymore. I swear, absolutely, will not appear anymore. No longer harm anyone anymore. Lu Zhaoge recalled the pain of losing relatives later on, the memories that have become desperate that the children have become an orphan who have gone forever. Tightly squeeze. Emitting sounds sprinkled with the head of the Tu Ma mausolea. Love Tumalang fell behind the bloody sound. The beasts also gradually vanish in the air. Lu Dongli saw that everything had ended with a whisper, leaning on the stump, breathing a sigh. Chen Xiao spear born surrounded by why I seemed to feel a glimpse of a strong force like my master. Suddenly squeezing Xiao again seemed to think something. Chen Xiao observed. Lu Zhaoge is performing the technique of speculation, because the Grand Master has a specific condition, so there is also a great man who silently follows him to protect him. However, it was very quick to fall into a state of suspicion that was not so powerful. Chen Xiao seems to find the argument to persuade himself. After that, the tears that touched him were concerned about us. Lu Zhaoge still focused on collecting. Chen Xiao still focused on the thought, and then touched by himself on the outside. The Grand Master did not pay attention to the person next to him, but he was afraid of secretly hitting himself, so he sent a great practice to protect himself. Lu Dongli saw Chen Xiao's erratic emotional changes, but did not know what he was thinking about. This guy was so scared, so stupid. The disciple of the Sword of Swords seems to have a heavy problem, right? Suddenly, the system rang out a cry of notice that the player has completed the mission of love to cultivate in transit. No, Lu Zhaoge does not hesitate. The system continuously plus a score of 5,000 points of experience, plus 35,000 experience points for an additional repair. Lu Zhaoge saw that thinking that the Chen Xiao was a human-shaped tool, so this time it was considered that I was a lot of experience for myself to calculate myself. Always. Lu Zhaoge looked at the body of the Ma Lang's love on the ground, as if this was a body spoil that could still be changed in the object of an object must. In order for Lu Zhaoge to wonder, the system reverberates the voice of the finger from the finger of the Ma mausoleum of the special mission. If collecting both of them, will open a hidden story that can receive a hidden task. Lu Zhaoge widened his eyes in surprise. He came to withdraw the black nail of the two, seeing that Lu Dongli waved to me. I was unable to clean up the battlefield to handle these bodies a little bit, to listen to obedience to the Grand Master. As soon as he turned away, so that everything for Zhaoge to continue studying this thing can open the hidden task in the forum, the previous life mission, there is no way to open a specific way. Suddenly, a call from Chen Xiao made Lu Zhaoge startled this time. Lu Zhaoge quickly regained calmly, coughing up a small response to the small thing not enough to interfere with the teeth, and then thinking that the name of the little boy, you go away quickly. I plan to stay at the meal and complete the task, and not plan to go. Chen Xiao respectfully bowed his head. Do not let Chen Xiao say all the sentence. Lu Zhaoge steal the first word, you bring the destiny to the rest of the duty to be used in the heart of Lu Zhao. Good to calculate you want to bring home dream. Chen Xiao reluctantly, is that just let me ask you to ask for the level of love to be, Lu. Zhaoge silently praised this little boy to understand the reason. In the heart of Chen Xiao, there are no fewer thoughts if there is no Grand Master. I will not kill that love, let alone complete the mission, and the Grand Master is the mysterious brother that you, Yue brother, or said it from now on, and now you and you, Yue, you have the same secret. Thinking about being a close with you, Yue Chen Xiao Cha Helene, then I will not be the one who understands you, Yue brother. The most thought that I thought it was a bit excited already. Suddenly Lu Zhaoge called Chen Xiao to startle him, and startled the disciple like a fool. Chen Xiao immediately responded respectfully with the disciple. Lu Zhaoge stood on the leaves, thrown down the head of the Tu, to say, this head for you, now you can leave. And then Chen Xiao quickly do not want to separate Lu Zhaoge without Lu. Grand Monk still want to follow him with knowledge. But there are a few questions that want to ask questions. Lu Zhaoge coldly said on the road. Chen Xiao successfully flew in the same direction with Lu Zhaoge and Dong Li that wanted to ask. Chen Xiao said his questions. Why from the beginning to the end of the Grand Master, he still did not draw his patronage from the shell. Lu Zhaoge only coldly responded to a sentence because he was not worthy. Under the sunlight shining behind Lu Zhaoge seemed to radiate the glory he was not worthy. Chen Xiao was surprised that he did not deserve to gap. It is the phenomenon of the Grand Master, so the sword is so that the eyes are glittering with glittering looks, full of admiration. Lu Zhaoge, in the heart of this praise when he appeared, he still saw him thinking about meditation, but he was much more wise now already there. Lu Dongli saw that there were more people admiring his brother. He was bored, and then another person was poisoned thoroughly. But just need the Singer to be safe. It is expected that the Truong Sin will continue to protect the Singer with me. Anyway, the name of the Lu Dongli remembered, when he looked up to the sky watching the young man stand on the top of the mountain, thinking of a poem of Bach Ngo King in the sky. 12 the 5th floors. The first person patted my head, ended the hair to receive the immoral. The fairy patted the head of the hair to accept the school. Returning to the reality of Lu Dongli to see Zhaoge from behind the name of the Singer, to the real or the longevity. Is a longevity with CA. The majestic mountains and forests appear. Hidden in white clouds, soon 3 people arrived. Lu Dongluk wondered that it was Zhao Ge to answer Kim Mon and the Theymon. The people below saw Chen Xiao coming surprisingly, the legendary disciple of the sword. We searched hundreds of miles to find the legendary disciple of the sword Tong, and then he followed behind Lu Zhaoge. Shatu patted the forehead full of impotence, and the context of Lu Zhaoge was bigger than what we thought. All three landed on the ground. Lu Zhaoge spoke about what you have. Shatu smiled and smiled on the front of Haha Grandmaster. Today is the day of dividing the resource area to practice every 10 years that our three families are all in these 100 miles. Everyone divides a little resource. Linlong saw the beauty of Lu Zhaoge. It was so fascinated without stopping, her cheeks red and shy in her heart, that she was so pounding with this pounding heart. Then, watching the women behind, are fascinated by Lu Zhaoge. This head of the head will take the initiative to ask for a dread with the Grand Master to make a scheme in advance. Shen Qingqing is her love for the future. It still has a long thing that should not let it do it for itself. After thinking, I told Lu Zhaoge, Lu Grand Master, this time, the distribution of resources we will be willing to spend. Before he finished speaking, Xiao has spoken out to be crossed out for every 10 years, the distribution of cultivation resources within 100 miles once. And this kind of thing is to handle in the sword Tong a lot, and then have a lot of experience. Lu Zhaoge also did not refuse to face extremely happy in his heart, thinking that this person's instrument is increasingly professional. He finished patting the shoulder. Chen Xiao saw that Lu Zhaoge agreed. He was happy to face Lumon. He also agreed with his shoulder, and he also agreed with his own. Both of them raised their thumb to look very good in the heart of Lu Zhaoge, silently calculating the good-shaped tool later in the duty to eat rice. You will have a bowl to wash up. Lu Zhaoge leads the leader of the elder, Lin Long, in the back to call with the Grand Master. Chen Xiao again interrupted the grip of the hand of Lin Long Lam, Grand Master, not inviting me to this side. Lin Long has no other way to be reluctant in his heart, and worried. Then he can touch the talk. What kind of love, Xchan Ga? Chen Xiao is trusted in the inspiration on the face of the distribution of this resource, as if we do well. The relationship between us and the Grand Master will be more and more the star. Xiao has just thought about the future, to be a body with Yu Yue, more and more excited to have close relationships with the Grand Monk. It also means that I will have more and more topics. And so becoming a close friend of Yu Yue Hu is closer to one step, and then perfect. Winning a large amount of distribution resources then multiplied late at night. Lu Zhaoge started the first reward of Lu Zhaoge to the deserted cemetery. Then type on the style. The body brought. The inside of the tomb suddenly made a sound. From the bottom of the small palace flying high under its tail is a blue color, and Lu Zhaoge smiled ghostly smile. Lu Zhaoge laughed happily and robbed the blue object at the tail of the palace. Tio Kung Peng flew towards the body lying motionless below to smell. He served him to take away Tio Kung Peng to fly towards the body lying motionless below to smell Lu Zhaoge smiling back, to obtain the other object of meditation still given to little Li Tu. More than if he did not understand, so that he could learn and teach other disciples, he could teach himself. It was indeed a human, making Mo Manhain, but moreover, this is also the fortune. Lu Zhaoge against his chin thinking, but the type of management of this paint asset is not due to the Grand Master of Lady. Lu Zhaoge thinks of the image of Lu Dongli angrily holding the sword continuously, but feared that the little Li Tujiao is afraid that this is a bit difficult. Tio Kung Peng still flew around the body to smell Lu Zhaoge again, and said what he wanted to do with this body. Tio Kung Peng lifted one side of the body to glare. Lu Zhaoge stands beside me. Lu Zhaoge put his hand out, a green spiral of appearance, to see him as his person, so I show it. Tio Kung Peng flew to the pearl sparkling in this hand, you know. Tio Kung Peng used the tail to fly the jade pearl floating on his palm. Lu Zhaoge is extremely difficult to understand, that the pearl falls into many pieces. From the fragments that appeared, Tun Guyan Chong Lu Zhaoge was astounding here. It was a crescent moon and surrounding patterns around the mysterious black and purple square. Lu Zhaoge frowned, panicked from Guyan Chong. Lu Zhaoge looked at the object in his hand and remembered that when he was young, he stood beside a dead person. He recalled that he also had a crescent moon in his hands with the same patterns. It is Tu Nguyen Hoi involved in love to kill her mother. Lu Zhaoge asked Tio Kung Peng, this is a believer of Tun Nguyen Hoi. Tio Kung Peng immediately nodded. Lu Zhaoge closely asked to ask, so the name of the TU that we killed was also a member of Tun Nguyen Hoi this time. Tio Kung Peng shook his head again. Lu Zhaoge frowned not. The tail of the small palace split into two branches. Lu Zhaoge, looking at the object in his hand, is to say that there must be these two to be considered the official member of Tun Nguyen Hoi. Tio Kung Peng nodded Lu Zhaoge to observe the Nguyen Chung. Lu Zhaoge looked up right away from Xiao Zidi. Tio Kung Peng nodded Lu Zhaoge and happily understood that if he had the opportunity to ask more about what was related to that guy, discovering something? Tio Kung Peng shook his head. Lu Zhaoge helplessly did not know what to say. Tio Kung Peng suddenly pounded his head into his hand to emit the sound of the trunk of Lu Zhaoge helplessly hugged his face, and then clearly knew that her head was not awake, but she also went to put her faith in her finding the enemy, for her head also stubbornly spread out. Lu Zhaoge put his hand on his chin, thinking that he remembered the three mysterious balls and the dragon flying in the middle, but his previous life also had a bit of knowledge about Tu Nguyen Hoi. He still remembered that he had the opportunity to understand the color of the war in front of them. A man wearing a large red mask in his hand, carrying a Hoog sword behind him, also has a lot of people who understand that the battle is a famous earthquake. Another man holding a sharp three-pointed nail on his back was a pair of wings at his feet. The bodies of the growers on each other, but the spirit of that gas alone was as strong as their association combined with all of them. He leaned back, still remembering that at that time, I used to say a sentence not to drag a lot of property of some people to fight with a little money in my pocket. Lu Zhaoge is extremely proud to rub his chin and smile behind him, reminding you what the key is to forget the key. Lu Zhaoge glanced at the two news related to Tun Nguyen's previous life. You thought I didn't want to think more. Lu Zhaoge raised the moon chapter, so he really wanted this one. Tio Kung Feng immediately nodded. Lu Zhaoge looked at the object in his hand, thinking about the two passed away on a piece of white blanket covering his face. Lu Zhaoge immediately gave him to him, but later we would need to use it at that time. He lent us a little bit. Tio Kung Peng continuously nodded in the small palace and took it with his tail. Lu Zhaoge frowned and thought, this thing was so good. Lu Zhaoge repeated where he knew that he could find this chapter if he wanted to open more hidden tasks. He had to have 2 pieces of Nguyen Chung. Tio Kung Feng flew close to Lu Zhaoge, wondering what he did. The tail immediately turned into a fluttering hand. Around Tio Kung Peng immediately appeared many moon chapters. Lu Zhaoge panicked and shouted at Lu Zhaoge, surprised to ask if he was like me. All had a vengeance with Nguyen Hoi. Tio Kung Peng became unstable, constantly reeling from the sound of Lu Zhaoge. Lu Zhaoge said we understood, and then he discovered that he had a large pile of moon chapter, so he wanted to ask for a shortcoming memory for him. Tio Kung Feng nodded. Lu Zhaoge looked left and right to put his hand on his chin to understand him. If the nature of the cunning was a bit deeper, it was presumably guessing that he was the old man after the moon of the moon. Lu Zhaoge smiled, dumbfounded. If not because the system did not tell her as Hong Dan, then maybe I would guess it wrongly. Tio Kung Feng flew near him. Tu Sung's tail wrapped his hand to touch. Lu Zhaoge saw that immediately. It was okay that the death of our parents was not related to him. We know that now he is restricted from him. He will not save them. The news of the 4 moon. Lu Zhaoge continued. But the news of Tun Nguyen Hoi, we noticed to help him. But his moon chapter, we borrow a few things we need to use. Tio Kung Peng was startled from his hand. Tio Kung Peng was saying clearly that I asked you to bring the body here so that I would see if it was a monk who brought with me the moon chapter or not, then turned into you. Not only did not give Tun Nguyen Chung, and I wanted me to give you a few one. Lu Zhaoge smiled and explained that he did not deceive him to let us borrow some of the moon chapter. We had a way to obtain real useful news, that until then we will tell him that she looks stupid, but not to the point of cure. Tio Kung Peng waved the tail of Tu Feng, who wanted to say that these things for us to get. Lu Zhaoge raised his hand too. The notice of appearing Ting players is eligible to open the hidden task. Lu Zhaoge repeat look up. Lu Zhaoge looks at the scene before his eyes, exclaimed, at the system of the battle is also hidden. This news system that provides us seems to be very useful. Suddenly the light flashed him, suddenly widening his eyes. But the results showed only a tiny gate, which made Zhaoge so depressed. The system immediately announced that Tun Nguyen Hoi was the organization of a lot of members in the organization. In the organization that was one of the 3 big jest love organizations in Thanchao, that seemed to be a conspiracy of something member of Tun Nguyen Hoi, who was extremely worshipped. They were confident that they could only swallow Tun Nguyen. They would have the supreme power. Looking at the brief information in front of Lu Zhaoge, I did not believe my eyes to wonder all the same. Then he put his hand on his chin to ponder in his mind that he had to deduce himself, and Tun Nguyen was definitely about something that just needed to become strong, and it would be strong with the style of love, so he wanted to swallow it crazy. Thinking so, Lu Zhaoge put his hand on his forehead, full of sorrow, a rotten bunch of mental illnesses. At the same time tired, the system shows a planet. If you want to unlock more hidden plot, you need 10 Nguyen Chung. This immediately attracted attention to him, and the helpless expression of the generous and generous, a lot of death in the beginning of the beauty of the other 2 moon. The other was just a waste of entry, like the door with the bar that wanted to play a girl. She had to add money, not only to sit and watch the disco dancing atmosphere. While trading, Tio Kung Peng saw him get more, startled to see the quantity of Nguyen Chung that Tio Kung Peng spent, and then it jerked back in the surprise of Zhao Ge. Tio Kung Peng puffed up angry cheeks that said, why did you take so much? Hearing that Lu Zhaoge was so hard to answer his smallness, and when we took the blood of him to see that we could see the price of the price that did not wait for us to calculate it, it would certainly not be as small as he would definitely say it all out. A crystal sound rang the system, questioning the player in accordance with the criteria for reading to look up. Lu Zhaoge responded to the next information that was released to Tu Nguyen Hoi. Every 3 years, we'll hold a small member session at all the points in Thanchao time of the time of convergence to the next year. The next year the player has received a coordinate of those points. Please pay attention to check and see. Looking at that new information, Lu Zhaoge is extremely surprised. Then he laughed and enjoyed that the next year, it seems that this love is similar to the player who sets up the shop to buy and sell things that he does not need his chance to come. After saying that, Lu Zhaoge also silently calculated the time. After that, I had to work hard to raise the monk to get the time. The player came to the time. Then he envisioned himself on the top of the mountain and told a crowd of people raising his hand, all for me to stay behind the squatting head. But those people are not afraid of the opposite. They also turn Zhao Ge into a prey of this crispy salary, where this young meat is crawling, so the duty to joke about this body for a while and then eat him really beautiful. But play the fart, who is more handsome than the old man, he must die. Just imagining that scene, Lu Zhaoge's face had no more blood, and blood thinking that there was no strength like a faint chicken. It was no different from submitting the network. Being busy thinking in his mind, Tio Kung Feng suddenly closer to him with anger. Before the impatience of the small fox, Zhao Ge, laughing and thinking that she almost forgot that she must reveal a bit of time code to deceive. Next, he straightened the moon chapter upwards in the beginning of this trick that he learned from the swirling finger of Kong. At the old man who guessed the 10-year destiny also had to call by instrument. The moon chapter quickly arranged in a ring to create a strand G bowl of 8 trigrams. Lu Doga calmly raised his hand to recite this mantra. This made him wonderful that he pressed the knuckles as if calculating something, then suddenly shouted to make Tiu Kung Pung startled. I calculated it. It quickly flew around Lu Zhaoge with a sparkling star's eyes that made him smile. Then Lu Zhaoge covered his mouth to pretend mysteriously that Pine Ko could not be revealed. This makes the small palace shocked to gasp. It was angry, and opened all of her mouth to swallow all the moon chapter in her mouth. Then I was angry, and pushed Lu Zhaoge to go away, being pushed to the point of unbearable. Lu Zhaoge, don't push anymore. We don't want to tell you that, I just want to rearrange the clue. He continued to turn around to compromise with Tu Kung to wait for me to think carefully, and it would be specific and meticulous to you. Hearing that Tu Kung Pung is still furious with his hands on his hips, as if it is not his, Lu Zhaoge saw that, then laughed happily and waved to say that then the leaves were surfing. Then he left in the extreme anxiety of the pond under the moonlight. This time, Lu Zhaoge did not understand the priority of the small head. Inside the house, Lu Zhaoge looks at the map in front of his eyes saying, this place is a bit far. Despite such difficulties, he is determined to close the map, but the path of killing is never close. He stood from the house to look out at the door that was snowed and said that the winter was far and far away, and this year was coming and then coming to the god of Little Li too. Dongqi comes is also the time when Zhaoge actively practices. After practicing with the pain that the blood calmly exhaled sweating on his face, he thought that if he kept cultivating like this when he was familiar with pain, he would not have to beat him later. He would not feel more painful that he could see that he was stronger. Thinking so, Lu Zhaoge laughed happily. Dreaming about the future of the strong, there was a call that made Lu Zhaoge awakened. Dong Li, in the extremely beautiful winter outfit, visited him. Zhaoge softly called Dong Li. He smiled and said to his sister again and again. Then our Li Tu dynasty was another year old in his mind, that he thought that this sentence was because his father said every year, but now he changes to himself. Then Zhaoge asked today to wear this little bit down the mountain, and then we'll turn from Li Dong into that Bing. Seeing her brother worried like that, she stuck out the mischievous tongue from the pocket of a fur cloak to respond. And then I thought who I was. Under the great snow, the wind blows the 2 brothers and sisters to go down the mountain. Standing at the door watching the snowfall, Lu Zhaoge said, if everything's ready, then let's set off. This year's Mortalization Day, I have to experience it to the fullest. Mortalization Day was when cultivators sealed away their entire cultivation, returning to the mundane world, to experience the warmth and struggles of mortal life. For the Lu couple, this day held special meaning. It was chosen as Dong Li's birthday. As for Lu Zhaoge's own birthday, well, that one was skipped. He never really liked birthdays anyway. In Apple, Le District Momen's real estate has a reputation of people who have too much dust for a year. Dong Li just held the brushed chicken feathers around the surrounding. Suddenly Lu Zhaoge approached her and said that Dong Li stood still. He gently covered his dust on the nose and smiled on the dust, so I don't know Dong Li saw that smiling. Enthusiastic dust, Zhaoge became standing again. He did not seem to brush down the dust, but also spread out the face of Dong Li's face. Now looks extremely comical. Seeing that Lu Zhaoge laughed in the foolishness of Dong Li, she turned to look at the nearby mirror and discovered the truth. Immediately after that was a dog flying dog barking of 2 brothers, Soot killed brother A, person who wanted to kill the bowel song of the country. After causing war with each other, the 2 people cooked Zhaoge in a small voice and coaxed, smelling the smell of fragrant noodles and forgot the anger in the body. But I thought that I could not control my nose anymore. Very quickly, then a bowl of hot noodles with full food was displayed on the 2 people to eat. Lu Zhaoge yet to eat, but said if his father was still alive, he would definitely be sure. Saying the smoke of the world warmly warmed the heart of the people, even though he was giving up the noodles. And then he would respond immediately to the delicious food throughout the 4 directions, not as a bowl of hot food. Speaking of which, the 2 brothers look at each other. Lu Zhaoge took out from the pocket of a one-handed thing when I went to buy salt to buy it for me. Dong Li holds a pear in his hand and smiled happily, looking at the delicious pears, but he was in pain, but it was not convenient, but I still wanted to buy it for me. Lu Zhaoge sat next to Lu Dong Li. He suddenly wanted to put his hand on her head, but the hand nearly touched the head of Lu Dong Li, suddenly stopped. When he trembled for a while, his hands were reluctant to think in his head a little. He forgot that Li Li too was grown, and if he was rubbed his head, he would be angry. Dong Li glanced at Lu Zhaoge. The small mouth was still bulging cheeks to eat food. Then she put her head into his hand, with a smiling face like a kitten's. Lu Zhaoge dumbfounded people, looking at the actions of Lu Dong Li. His face showed a gentle smile like a warm sunshine. In the afternoon, his sisters Will and his sister reached out to rub her head, this warm, making her feel extremely comfortable. This imagery makes the 2 of them think of the past, when both of them are one in the evening of the family of their family, using a Zhaoge meal to eat noodles, so good to eat so well. On the table of the father's father, both of them smiled and elegantly said that the smoke of the bone was soothing and hiding. Lu Zhaoge sat in the opposite side to stand up and talk. Happily eating and drinking in the 4 directions is just a mist. Father Lu heard that he was angry at him, so he had to stab his father, but his mother sitting next to him laughed incessantly when he saw this scene. Ha ha. Lu Zhaoge smiled and looked at Mr. He told me that he was a boy. At this moment, Lu Dongli was greedy next to silently showing his eyes, as if looking at the bowl of his brother's noodles. When he did not notice the egg in the bowl of Lu Zhaoge, she was picked up in his mouth and shouted at Hugh's eggs, but she smiled at him. He was very comfortable to eat very comfortably. Seeing the expression of no more life anymore of her son, Lu's mother laughed and picked up the egg in the bowl she was feeding the noodles quickly. Seeing the new egg of Lu Dongli's eyes again, he lightly lit every moment. Lu Zhao, Father Lu and his mother Lu sat at the opposite side to see the image of the two brothers they could not stop. At this time, Lu Zhaoge could not help but imagine that his parents were still sitting opposite, and laughed. Looking at the two of them like when he was a child, he looked at Lu Dongli, who was eating extremely delicious, and thought or pinched it a little bit. In the mind, Lu Zhaoge thought of her face when pinching me. I felt that softness, but again, his arms lowered without performing his face, breathing lightly. Both brothers and sisters sat next to the fire to look at the snowy sky. At this moment, Lu Zhaoge suddenly called a Dong. Dongli heard the voice he called, then glanced at the mouth while his mouth was still eating delicious noodles, and collapsed. He looked at her and then gently said a happy birthday, but how many emotions contained? Lu Dongli smiled and looked at his brother's beautiful face, and smiling, thank you. Lu Zhaoge gives her eyes. Looking outdoors, the weather seems colder. His face seriously recalled the winter chai, only after that he would not be as peaceful as this anymore, and his eyes attentive to the burning fire of the fierce of the woman until she had to pay it. On the second day, the same and the same goes together on the way back to both through a green river. Lu Zhaogu's voice rang, causing Lu Dongli to pay attention to Li Li Tudongchu next year, and his brother came to one place. Lu Dong slopes two hands to ponder to say where to go. But so far, I just want to keep Mo Men hard practice. How much good practice? The corner of his mouth slightly raised a few words to kill people. Two eyes were surprised and wide open but slightly froze. Suddenly understood the meaning of the sentence, she said a word. It is not clear that the feelings of the two brothers and sisters walked in the sun. Lu Zhaoge asked her this trip. The most beautiful girl. Lu Dongli's voice was still extremely active in the response with CA, and not afraid of Lu Zhaoge laughing with this answer, and then continuing, so we have to hurry up and there are many things we need to do there to improve the strength, and then the upcoming renaissance will come, and a group of sparks will come. The system offers a notice as a countdown to the time when the inner transformation of the Huyen Gigi is 250 days of the player landing in Tyne, Huyen Gigi. In Momen, in the middle of the sunshine of the sun, a voice rang out, and she did not know where the Grand Master was, but it seemed that everyone was abandoned by me. Luo Bing was calmly watering flowers, and her eyes said that I did not know if I knew where the Grand Master Ba was not here wasting time with you. Hearing this words of her working hard as if he was frozen, he whispered to jealous in this girl's heart all day, only Lu Mon Master Hair. After a while, he went to another place, just glanced around to search for the silhouette of Lu Zhaoge Lu Mon. He did not know where to run, and just ask him something else he could know for sure if he was a mysterious brother. Suddenly the eyes of Chen Xiao rayed to the distance of Lu Zhaoge and Dong Li were going to this side. He could not help but be happy to call loudly Lu Mon in his thoughts, or too wastefully waiting for my chance to come. Chen Xiao rushed on the two brothers. Lung greeted the Grand Master to come. Zhaoge did not look at him, immediately waved his hand and said he knew, and quickly turned away the face of Chen Xiao and went out on the spot. He imagined, not appearing, this situation was not very right, But thinking for a while, he still laughed and said that he needed me to transfer to the elders and Yu Yue brother. The eyes of the two opposite people staring at each other without blinking. The eyes of the thin sweat, thinking that he just answered, that he only knew both the elder and Yu Yu the brother. So he was definitely that he was my mysterious brother in the legend of Tyne Ku. Lu Zhaoge smirked a bit of the eyes to judge the person in front of this wobbly guy who wanted to try me. Why the current attendance of Momen did not increase now. In his mind, he came up with many benefits to use Xiao anyway. Any more benefits than the first sword of the first disciple. Than Chao, one of the four sects. Lu Zhaoge hipped two eyes and spoke again with Chen Xiao to help us ask King the Elder's face. Chen Xiao's face was shocked to be surprised as if thinking about something. Yu Yue, what did the younger brother do? As expected, he did not mention Yu Yue brother, but did not deny that you did not know Yu Yue brother. He quickly bent down to the ceremony with Lu Zhaoge in response. Then squeezed Xiao like a wind that rushed to the mouth and was happy to celebrate Lu Zhaoge, looking at him silently. The expectation of Tu Tran did. Lu Dongli stood next to the brother wondering what he was looking at, but he answered a very lack of a sentence to look at a fly poster. Chen Xiao now had a sword left from Momen just now on his face, from laughing like a clown, who thought that Lu Chung did not admit that he knew. Yu Yue brother. Yu Yue did not directly mention the name of the Grand Master. Perhaps the two of them thought the same. He put his hand on his chin to speculate that the 2B people would probably want to hide this relationship with this lotus hatred, waiting for the appropriate opportunity immediately so that the whole world would be surprised. Chen Xiao's face showed a determination to talk confidently about the mountain we had, to exaggerate the story of the mysterious brother, but not to reveal even a little bit of relevance to the Grand Master. This is the common secret between us and Yu Yue brother. Self, guess, and then be happy with the person on the sword as if flying towards the sun? Oh yeah's mouth. 7 days after squeezing Xiao in Momen Lu Zhaoge, she was leisurely sitting and enjoying the tea, in the ear, ranging the sound of the list of fame, and fame, plus a plus, fame, plus the fame of one of his heart. He thought for 7 days, and still haven't come back to Kiev Tong again, or why this guy runs anywhere again. Sometime after Chen Xiao left for half a month, Lu Zhaoge, still sitting on the tea table that was no longer leisurely drinking anymore, in the ear still resounded the constant notifications in the heart of anger. The master's mission has been completed today, and then did not return to the report that needs to improve the teaching of the disciples. Until Xiao left for a month. At this time, the system always announced that fame and plus without any meaning. Lu Zhaoge this time was furious to break the bowl of tea floating the big ceiling. Next time I met you, I would definitely beat you to the point where my father did not realize. But this time in Kiev, Tong here is covered with white snow, can be said to be freezing. Somewhere in the sword, the Chen Xiao is dancing in front of Yu Yue's mouth, saying that this is like this, and that, like that, is like that. Yu Yue looked at him, he did not know what to say. Yu Yue thought in his heart, Zhao. Chen Xiao is still enthusiastically describing this reality like this and that. Yu Yue on the opposite side is putting the soul elsewhere. Until that time I will be like the previous day to the back of that brother's back. In not as shocked by Snow Xiao, he said forever and continuously. For a while after thinking about his dark future, he shook his head and shouted loudly. Hearing Yu Yue's voice, his eyes were round and looked at the person scouring in front of him and asked, Yu Yue, brother. After a while, Yu Yue stood in front of Chen Xiao, who gave a temporary ceremony to say that the monk was temporarily stopped. After saying that, he flew away quickly and looked at the back of that back, and then silently said that Voha could make people admire whatever he could enlighten him. Later, Chen Xiao also went up to sword and walked and thought he was just the time when we went to the message. And then the theory of the threat from the mysterious brother must be transmitted out more than that, not to let anyone know the name of the Grand Master. His mouth showed a cheerful and mysterious smile that must have the mystery of the death, and did not say the name of the Grand Master. In Momen the time passed. The spring was in the heart of Luzhao. Gai Chen Xiao was completely dead. Lu Zhaoge leisurely, lying on a chair looking at the sky, and thought that Chen Xiao died, and now have to think otherwise to help Momen to promote, but a small sect, how to attract players to worship, this is a very annoying man. Looking at the two women in front of Lu Zhao, Ge thinks the most experimental player is the weakest weak, like the sect of the few people like his own, even if he is his previous life, he does not look at it. A blushing Luo Bing shyly pointed to her mouth to breathe out in her head, thinking that the Grand Master Ba was peeking at her. Lu Zhaoge seemed to understand her thoughts, immediately became extremely helpless. Then he also shyly turned away to think, of course, except eager. Looking at the crowd of people who are passionate about the two beauties Luo Bing and Dong Li, he turned his back to wonder in his mind. But I needed the movement to develop the subject of flattery. Flattering eagerness to have any effect. I remember the silhouette of a woman who talked about a good player, suddenly remembered his previous life, and did not know if this life would have a chance anymore. He recalled that the person's words once said that you really like the master, who remembered that made Lu Zhaoge happily thought his previous life, because the love for the master was too full, even so that the cold-hearted man could confess to himself to me. But then he also shook his head, determined not to remember her anymore. I would not help but want to find her. Then Lu Zhaoge used spiritual energy from his fingers to give up a yellow light. He thought, first see how the disciples went down the mountain, how the situation was like. Why did everyone come back to make the mountain so quiet? As soon as I thought that I was shocked from the distance, everyone immediately looked at the bell of the bell. No one waited for anyone to answer him on his own, muttered last to let me wait. And how many chapters have already been in the end? Just walking. Lu Zhaoge muttered in his mouth with a fascinating smile he could make the color. The image of a large bell that has been shouted at thousands of people from the time of being founded here in front of this bell is in the whole Thanchao area, a total of 3 RDS at the door of Kiev Tong and 300 subjects. Now Lu Zhaoge and a few people fly to the bell. Of each bell, the price of the price is not low, because the sword of the 9th generation of the sword Tong personally trained into the 1,000 years, but when it was no need for spiritual energy to promote everyone guessed it was inside a motive for a motive. Its effect is very simple. If the human world happens, just a special incense stick will shake itself. Now Lu Zhaoge and everyone has arrived is also dubbed the hotline of the 1st Police Department. He used his hand to bring the bell near the bell, but even though it was designed so much, it was not the hotline, each of them had the effect, and the subject that had just shaken it did not have a good outcome. Now it became more and more recession. Luo Bing looked at the mailman in front of him, asking the master of the master. He needed Luo Bing to go down the mountain to see how she thought otherwise. The sun would just wear the strength and use Luo Bing. He casually responded to the coordinates who personally went down the mountain to see why in Zhao Gei's mind also thought that the opportunity to make such a great color could give you to you. Luo Bing still persevered in saying that the disciple vowed to go with the Grand Master's Grand Master. Seeing her begged like that, Lu Zhaoge also waved his hand to agree that the incident should not be delayed, to be afraid of the event that you go along with the coordinates, to hear that Lok Tam happily replied. Then the two of them boarded the boat to fly back and forth, leaving the anger full of the remaining disciples. On the way to the place to resolve, Lu Zhaoge quickly recite the spell to create a circle to see the road. Looking through the circle, the scene appeared, but there was something to stop him asking to wonder the foggy river. Luo Bing behind Chan get the tone of asking the sun the fog river. She was happy in her mind, just leaving her master could be called a dude, and the master seemed to be close to the women. It is very intentional for the enemy, and her face is a bit pink, but the prince, with the good quality of the sky, why is there no woman who proactively approached? In front of Luo Bing is Lu Zhaoge's big back. She suspected that in the beginning, if she did not go away, she did not dare to think that the position of Lady Grand Master, did not dare to think of riding on the head of the master's sister-in-law. Looking at the scene in front of Lu Zhaoge, seriously saying that the previous time the 10,000 people shook the place where the incense burned was the foggy river that did not know this time was what happened again. From above, looking down, the fog river appears more clearly. When the two of them landed at the people, they saw the two of them shout. The entire people quickly knelt down to bow down to the head of the village and said the old man worshipped the master. The surrounding villagers heard that unexpectedly, surprisingly, the attorney of Mo Men personally came. Lu Zhaoge used a water chief to ask the village elder to ask what happened. The village head shivered and pointed to the fog and called the Grand Master. The water was coming again. Upon hearing that, he became seriously saying that Luo Bing Devil stood behind him to look at Lu Zhaoge, a little Chango in his face, and immediately felt worried and feared, and then seemed to be the last time those guys did not have a job, he would be angry. In front of Lu Zhaoge, Luo Bing, and everyone in the village, is a lake surface that is not safe at all, but even ripples are not normal. Suddenly, the notification system you triggered the mission. Looking at the new announcement of the system, it also proves that Lu Zhaoge's argument is not expected to be a water demon. Just finished the information table of the devil's information. The foggy river deodorant fled at the bottom of the deep river of the fog award, the task of 1,000 experience points. At the same time, Luo Bing next to the side did not stop worried, but kept looking at the facial expression of Lu Zhaoge. But the thought that the prince was not angry, because in the previous half of the year, we used to remove the devil once. The past gradually appeared in this place. But it was half a year ago, Luo Bing and a brother named He Ting, who was moving towards a dazzling golden light in front of a Huga gate, according to Luo Bing's story, that time ranged the masters who were trying the masters who were taking the mountain to go down the mountain to go down the mountain to go down the mountain to go to the mountain to go to the mountain. At that time, the strength of the two of us was still weak if he arbitrarily acted on his hand to die on this fog river. At that time, Luo Bing and He Ting turned the car to change their intentions until now. So we arbitrarily made the decision to bring the spirit of the Mon to the middle of the area, in the same area to ask for help. When they entered the middle, monks both Luo Bing and He Ting, they had to pay a fee to a prince there to stay at that time. When they received line teach, they would definitely handle the devil in this place. Returning to the present, Luo Bing is still silently looking at Lu Zhaoge standing in one place and thinking about the past. With Lu Zhaoge at that time, the son came back to praise himself and his brother. Luo Bing's heart shook. The heart of Lu Zhaoge at that time still stood high and happily praised Luo Bing and He Ting. Very well, this place, because of the subject we protected, it must be well protected with just a little bit of spiritual stones that is not worth mentioning more and more. Referring to the past, the Anger in Luo Bing still never calmed down, but obviously those names took our min teach without putting it thanks. In the heart of Lu Zhaoge, he still stood looking towards the water, but only laughing and grinning. The old man directly slashed that guy to the coordinates, also dared to deceive the liver. Suddenly, Lu Zhaoge put his feet on the surface of Lu Zhaoge's foot, gently, calmly, like a small drop of water on the lake that easily walked on the water. Lu Zhaoge did not feel any difficulty, but still calmly deduced about the disgusting devilish monster that was not due to the resentment of a person, but Than recited to be a devil into the devil of water. Demons need to converge the resentment of many people who drowned for months to turn into a devil. On the contrary, with the calmness of Lu Zhaoge, the farmers in the village admire the endless skills of the water surfing skills on the water, like the wave of Lu Zhaoge that one person to the other competed to discuss the elastic discussion, as the Grand Master of Mo Men could walk on the water surface. Last time, the disciple of Trunk Bak Mon came to resolve the look at others with the eyes of the eye, then stopped elaborately, and was ecstatic with Lu Zhaoge's face, showing a calm look at the surface of the water, and thought of the same area that could not tolerate two demons, so the two water demons should be so. In just a short time, Lu Zhaoge easily deduced the true identity of the water demon under his feet, and became increasingly angry that this child could only be the previous one who had not eliminated the bastard, just came to make a look. Suddenly, Lu Zhaoge began to ask the director behind the village elder who died. An old man stooped to the back of the bunch of sticks from the farmers who responded to Lu Zhaoge's father. The dead man died when he went out to catch fish, and said he turned to bring the little girl with a sweet candy. The baby craving for a long time, the two did not stop. When it comes to that, when we discovered that the father of the little man, he turned into a dry body and pitifully his house was only a wife. When the young man finished speaking, Lu Zhaoge's eyes quickly changed his face and became more and more dangerous, and turned away a circuit forward, and still did not forget to tell Luo Bing here to protect the coordinates a little. He would come back to hear that Luo Bing immediately stood out to agree to the disciples of obedient destiny, obeying the destiny of 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 obedient destiny. Then suddenly, a whirlpool controlled by Lu Zhaoge appeared in front of him. A moment later, Lu Zhaoge appeared underwater through a bubble of water with a fixed amount of air. Inside to contain Lu Zhaoge, Zhao face is extremely determined to order the target lock system. Not long after, the system immediately announced that you have discovered the target of water devils. In front of Lu Zhao is a monster that appears with the characteristic red light of the potential dangers, and its information table also appears at the same time, resentment turning into half a year of ambush the devil, the power of the water of level 20. Despite the faster and faster moving closer to me, Lu Zhao's attitude is still not afraid or fear, but still calmly concluded that it was indeed not solving it last time. Just like the water monster with a bizarre appearance with its bloody red eyes, has successfully approached the position of Lu Zhao without any obstacles. Scenes to the ground at the place of Luo Bing and the residents of the village are constantly fearing to look at the surface of the water and competing to talk and do not know how the water is then. Suddenly, an explosion from the underwater broke out, causing many water columns to shoot up and over everywhere, making the residents suddenly scared. Gradually, the water fell, gradually revealing the pathetic look of the demon from the center of the explosion, who was on high, causing some farmers to pay attention to and constantly signaling the guy on the water demon that he killed the father of the small ghost, Zi, the master of the Grand Master. From the distance, Zhao, who did not have a quiet effort appearing on the water, the appearance of Lu Zhao became more and more serious and colder, but he pointed to the water committee. As soon as he finished, a stream of black smoke, the smell of danjara surrounding, swallowed the body was twitching. Painful pants of the devil could not do anything but just screaming in pain. Just when the devil is completely squeezed, suddenly a light is flashed, but no one can withstand, only know how to cover his hand, and constantly signaled, quickly closed his eyes, and closed his eyes. A moment later, the scene became quieter than the lake became completely compared to the original. People also gradually felt no longer being dazzled by the light, but immediately opened their hands. Returning to the scene of splashing water, black light, or even water demons, and Lu Zhao no longer appears, making everyone become shocked and sad, but constantly discussing Lumon Master. They do not see the demon dead. We have not yet thanked him. Luobing and Lu Zhao stand on the lotus leaf to observe Lu Zhao asking Luobing the copy of the previous invitation to the help of Trunk Bachmon. Lu Zhao fell into deep thought. The Shuyu sect specializes in water-style sword techniques. You really did pick the most suitable one, right? Then the system notification popped up beside him. System, you have defeated the water demon. You've gained 10,000 experience points. Luobing asked the prince, we now need to go to Shuiyuemen. Lu Zhao answered it must be gone, but there is still something to do. In a small village, the woman who sewed her patch and grumbled at the stitches and said so many times when she went to fish to go fishing carefully, not to find herself good at swimming. The woman's hand suddenly trembled with her voice too soon to know that she did it sooner than that, so she did not need to wear a torn outfit on the day. The boy holding the sword around the yard seemed to look for something, the boy who thought his father was in the end, and his piano. His father did not return to his mother, so he was cried by his father. Suddenly the door of the house sounded knocking on the door. The woman hurriedly wiped her tears and her small ghost son and quickly opened the door to open the boy's obedience to open the door. But the boy came out and did not see anyone with only one skewer to the side of the road. Take the skewer to the boy to search and come back. Why is it for the vast dragon fruit area that it said only to die a small fishing person, but for a family that said to die, it was a husband, who is a pillar, who is a breadwinner in a family. It turned out that the person who placed the skewer of the road in front of the door was Lu Zhao. The two of them sneaked up in a corner of observation, Luobing asking this baby's son seemed to have no religious substance. Lu Zhao answered the copy, feeling that this child was very blessed with the future. Luobing was amazed at the answer of Lu Zhao and turned away to think that it was as predestined as the boy would have a human life like that. Luobing also agreed if the dude said that, and then it seemed that the baby would not simply think. Luobing happily thought that, although the son of the manor was alone, but in the bone marrow was a warm person. Shuiyuemen line ranked 98th in the middle monks of Grand Master is about to trying to find a way to break through the elders who look at each other without having much eyesight. But even if it did not affect it, it could be pinched at the end of the table in the Bach Shi. Amen. When the two Luobing and Lu Zhao went to Shuiyuemen, the data discussed. The beautiful couple of their fate is definitely not trivial. A representative stood out and greeted me, please, 2 people from any tone of Shuiyuemen. At the same time, the system announced that you had touched the mission of the monk. Lu Zhao being calmly read the mission. Many phoned the disciple of Shuiyuemen, after taking the spirit of Momen, finished the speaker to finish the story of never killing the devil, nor completed the responsibility of the 10,000 people. Being the Grand Master of Momen, people protects the fog of people who need to make him understand the solemnity of the Momen and the rule of the monk to stir a battle of Grand Master. Lu Zhao finished reading the task of exploring first to see the names of these NPCs, did not know if Manyphone was here. After viewing all the information of the disciples standing in front of him, Lu Zhao led Luobing in and seemed to be here, not here. But the disciple of Shuiyuemen is not easy for Lu Zhao to go in like that. The lower steps will want to rush into Shuiyuemen. Lu Zhao did not answer. Shuiyuemen's disciples angrily asked you that he wouldn't say we would not be guests. Lu Zhao observed on the top of the mountain with a bell of. Lu Zhao chuckled. It turned out that you still have the bells of the people, so that you can come to see myself. Lu Zhao say a word, then release something about the bell. A bell resounded as if to call for all people of Shuiyuemen. Go to the disciples of Shuiyuemen to see that. Then shouted at Lu Zhao, you know what it is, what is the bell? Lu Zhao did not react in front of the swords that were shining towards him and used his eyes to look at them. The disciples of Shuiyuemen were really scared by their eyes, and they gradually feared. It is worth he to die in the end. How is his eyes like looking insects so I don't dare to walk forward? One of the disciples, despite the trembling fear, tried to ask Lu Zhaoge, and we asked the people again who came from any subject to Shui Yue Men. What Lu Zhaoge did not answer, but asked the opposite of the 10,000 people to shake. No one immediately came. The whole group of disciples was dumbfounded by the people he was talking. The disciples whispered to each other, who dressed very richly. There was some beauty in the rumor he was the Dharma disciple of Kiev Tong. The disciples whispering to each other, if it is true that today is huge, and then the disciple of the Sword Tong's law is a troublesome flood, but that person is not easy to talk to. Quickly report to the above problem, and then 4 of us go to report them to push responsibility for each other for a long time to go. Then you go away. The elder and the elder, because the position of attorney fought against each other, did not win. I did not want to find death anywhere. I certainly did not go anywhere. Do not hear them whispering to each other. What Luo Bing was surprised by these gate why, kept swinging their eyes and nausea, so nausea. Lu Zhaoge smiled coldly. The 4 of you playing the game, glanced enough. Lu Zhaoge behind the killing intent saying, if there are no people coming to handle it, do not blame me inadvertently. The 4 scared disciples quickly competed to run away and told me that I also went away. How could this be missing me like this? Luo Bing asked Lu Zhaoge Longtu, this time to want to teach a lesson for the disciples' name is not responsible. Remembering the poor family, the husband died and cried and searched for that father Lu Zhao. Reclaimed the religion. Finally, there were 2 elders who appeared in front of Luo Bing and Lu Zhaoge. The 2 elders came in front of them together to open their mouths for the little friend. The white hair is the elder of Shui Yue Men, black-haired. Lu Zhaoge laughed and said that the 2 of them were also very good at each other. The 2 elders and the same in unison who matched him. Luo Bing laughed. How did the gate of this monkey love this? But just now the other people also given love. Seemingly heard the words of Luo Bing. The elderly elder shouted at Luo Bing. The old lady advised her to carefully say that the elder did not like it, nor did he even want to mean with this dwarf. The disciples stood under the 2 elders arguing and arguing but contemplative cough, like the couple who were beating so slippery like that. The 2 elders were shut up for me. Lu Zhaoge interrupted. I don't have to come to see where you are. The tricks of the coordinates as the Grandmaster of Momen. Lu Zhaoge. Listening to Lu Zhaoge after the disciples were relieved, it turned out that it was not a disciple of the law threatening to die, and thought that this time happened a big thing. The elder rubbed the bride, and think that the elder's elder answered that he was at the last subject in the lower part of the bachelor. What could you work? Lu Zhaoge continued the coordinates today to Shui Yue Men and wanted to catch a person. The elders who see through Lu Zhaoge laugh, contemptuously think that the first priest is the first scene of the 8th, dared to go to Shui Yue Men. The black elder asked to make people want to arrest who? Lu Zhaoge answered the disciple of Shui Yue Men many phone. The elder was startled to be my 3rd leg of this small son, because he came to the elderly to see that he laughed and turned out to be his disciples this time. Many phone NGO Kiev came to the place where everyone was gathered to curse, making it difficult for his mother to wear this subject. Perhaps because I was so handsome it was overcome from Shui Yue Men. Suddenly many phone remembered something waiting to wear. His subjects seemed to remember something. Many phone recalled the day before Luo Bing and another disciple of Momen to Shui Yue Men begged him to invite the brother to help the people of the Foggy River to kill the devil. Many phone arrogantly smirked and worshipped the brother, and not kneeling is what morality. The 2 Luo Bing and the disciple Shui Yue Men whispered. Luo Bing said that I only knelt at the masters who did not have the morality of this person, but the younger brother persuaded the Foggy River to be ragged, if just because of the temporary people, the other villagers would have a disaster. Luo Bing was persuaded to kneel down and told his disciple in hating Luo Bing to offer to the spirit as a gift of thanksgiving. Many phone laughed and scorned his pocket in his hand and said that he was temporarily going back to just a small demon. Many phone uses that money to play in the green floor of the beautiful lady today. My mood is good. Many phone recalled that he cursed at himself. At that time, he was transient to bring line teach to chanja money with the brothers to drink alcohol to buy flowers and the story of the devil. I forgot. Many phone NGO Kiev moved towards the Lu Zhaoge people. He was definitely because of this, and when he came to Hatong, the monolithic subject was a little bit of a small thing. This man named Many Phone thought arrogant was not just a devil who could only operate in the fog, could not go ashore to make any great painting, but at the very end, it was just a 2-life person. Before he went to the mountain, the rich man in his house was arbitrary, making it scolded now, the short of the lack of practice, and the fairy and mortal may be the same. Hung if he had come to the door, he couldn't be grasped by the elder's 2nd elder like that. How could he become a master? Many phone evil thinking about this country, the best way to handle it is first to admit the error so that he cannot find the reason for scolding himself. Many phone stood in front of the 2 attorneys, who showed a false appearance in Many Phone, who was invited to kill the devil, but the poor power for the devil to escape still expected the punishment to punish the compensation for twice the compensation for Mo Men. The elders looked at the disciples that he thought that he was good, and not so bad, that this person was very good. He was responsible for him to not be blamed for the elders to despise their small sect, but twice as much as the spirit. The small sect that comes to the door is not just wanting a little resource to think. Lu Zhaoge raised his head high. Fisheries in the Foggy River died a fisherman. Listening to the information of Lu Zhaoge Many Phone was a little blank, but his reaction was this guy who wanted to add more money. Meng Feng gritted his teeth and gums up to say that the disciple agreed to compensate 3 times, but he did not commit the life of a mortal person, but 3 times the limit was his limit. Lu Zhaga swung his hand and licked and laughed and said, Lu Zhaga told Manyphone, Tong 16 of the Sword's reader, to read Manyphone. What kind of person? Zhaga Chan get the face of the killing intent, staring at Manyphone's voice. Manyphone trembled at Lu Zhaga's atmosphere. Manyphone trembled to read the 16th rules of Kiev Tong, to receive the entreatment of Van Dan's bell if the story was done through indirect speakers, which led to a person who lost his life with a whip. The elder was angry at this little boy. He wanted more and more. This is too obvious, and then came to threaten himself, the young elder at the side, and laughed. He thought that he would be blurred by line. Teach, this time in the end, there was a good thing to watch. I punished the sword Tong with a total of 6 threads of thunder, whip hitting the body of the whip to hit. The thunder is a small pain. But in this miraculous practice, world can be saved. But the religious whip is not like that of the mind to hit the person who is unstable. The mind may be cracked for a lifetime. It cannot take one step even more and even lower if this situation occurs, unless it is possible to win the nature. Whether it is a great practice in the 7 can, it is impossible to cure. Handphone at this time scared to sweat. He looked towards the elder to ask the master to save the child. The elder also emerged the miserable killing intent now and could not openly confront him. He could only give him a little resource first and then think of a way to get you a resource that can let go of my disciples already. Thinking so, he raised his soft voice. Lu Zhaga pretended to be extremely hated to give you 3 choices. He continued to say a penalty of the 2 of them to create a sword of this sentence successfully, as Shui Yue Men. The elder was so crazy. Manyphone trembled and stuttered. Lu Zhaga immediately responded without the third tease that, or the third, the other 2 parted into one sentence, continued to make Shui Yue Men. He could not stand it anymore. Shui Yue Men the elder saw that and laughed sarcastically. The elder who wanted to play the underground rule to get money to cover the mouth of stars, contrary to the rules of the sword. Shui Yue Men the elder was so angry that he gritted his teeth and said, Manyphone fell into 1,000 pounds hanging noodles and looked at him and called for help for the master to help me. He helplessly shook his head of Shui Yue Men the elder. He looked at him and thought that he dared to say if he dared to break the rule. Manyphone saw that then trembling and grayed, and after thinking, Lu Zhaga feels so laughing, if you don't choose, I have to help you choose the third one person personally. He immediately panicked to respond to me a sword. Then Manyphone pulled out the sword. The whole body Lu Zhaga radiates great spiritual energy. At this way, Manyphone also had to calmly think that this guy was just the most beautiful scene of the bowl of heaven, but he was equal to his realm to continue him. Then he turned the sword into the position of thinking in this head compared to enduring 6 whips. Before the wary of Manyphone, he calmly finished preparing and then told the duty to release his heart to find the destiny of the duty. Hearing that Manyphone seemed to wake up something that the duty of not being removed was so yielded, if he could hurt the old man, he would not practice his sword later. The 2 elders who watched the elders were nervous, as the moon of the elder who laughed and thought that this little son seemed to want to swap resources with himself, just fake the set of dangerous appearance, and Shui Yue Men. Take all the strong atmosphere backwards, please. Lu Zhaga is also serious in response. He broke out the power of the large amount of black gas immediately spilled out. The power is so great that the sky appears horizontal lightning. The 2 attorneys general saw the black air startled and shouted at the power of the sky and earth. Manyphone saw that the amount of black gas attacked to me could only stand still. He tried to stop the sword, the strong intention of that strong body. Manyphone seemed to crack the tendons on the face. Finally his sword was broken. Only with the intention of Lu Zhaga easily beat Manyphone to the wall. If we lie on the land, the body broke the body. Shui Yue Men, great elder, angrily shouted Manyphone. Lu Zhaga finished hitting and collected his thick black ideas. He calmly said he could not continue a sword of the duty. Shui Yue Men elders looked towards him angrily, thinking that he still thought that Lu Zhaga was a soft man, when he was hard and unexpectedly tough to the end. Suddenly one of his disciples shouted at Many's master. Many's master broken. Hearing the news of the shock of Shui Yue Men, the elder screamed up Lu Zhaga. He laughed and responded to the practice without cultivating the best. Lu Zhaogu's back is so big he said he should not practice the sword. This is successful that the elder's moon emerged to shoot out sparks in your eyes. Shui Yue Men, Conchal of the 2nd Grand Master also adds oil to the fire, not sure if anyone dares to cover the disciple, but made the rules of the sword Tong, where the disciples of the disciple, so the body of the master did not dare to make a pitiful sword. Outside encouraged Shui Yue Menks of the elder inside, he plotted extremely quickly violating the rules, so Shui Yue Men will be the old man, and then fighting to see the other young man. Itchy. How can Shui Yue Men, the elder was even poked and turned to pointing to his grandfather, and he was really happy to stroke his beard. But contrary to what he thought, Shui Yue Men the elder laughed reluctantly to say that this was shocked for Shui Yue Men. After saying that Shui Yue Men the elder resigned to telling Lu Zhaogalu, the young AG of the young AG. Of course there is a bravery of Shui Yue Men, the elder. He thought that his mother's pupils were so fast and could not help you from the turtle. Luo Bing has this scene that makes it fascinated that this is the sword Tu. She looks at the beauty of Lu Zhaoge that thinks this is a refreshing refreshment on the religious land. This is the prince that I admire through Luo Bing's gaze, really brought with 1,000 super beauty filters already. He looked at the disciples who were helping Manyphone to think. Her face was slightly pink to recall the old thing. That was the old thing that Manyphone was, because of her and the great brother, who requested that the prince would have a sense of anger for us. On the side of Shui Yue Men, the elder, he did not achieve the intention to immediately calculate his mother. It was true that this old tortoise was disregarded, but this good opportunity could not ignore this old man. Then he looked out behind many phone, tiredly bowed his head to think of more oil to the fire for this indignation to be more intense. Thinking that it was a moon of the elder came to whisper to many phone who was seriously injured like this, afraid of being completely waste, so he should be dedicated for more than 10 years. Shui Yuemin Great Elder once again angry, he saw that he laughed effectively. Shui Yuemin the Elder raised his bruised face to add more in his mouth. He was broken, and feared that he could only eat porridge to be made into G like this, and no one dared to stand out for you. This time Shui Yuemin Big Elder was even more angry, and he laughed, Hifai. In the beginning of Lu Zhaoge, all of this stage asked the duty to ask the two elders if he performed the many phone tong phone. There was a place to protest. In his mind he thought more and more rich in the fire of the duty. He did not like to be used by others as a knife. If that was so, that he would also hit the face. The two elders were temporarily silent because they did not know what to say. The elders thought that if the protest followed the tone, this Lu Zhaoge had the right to directly kill. He did not wait for the two to talk and ask. Then the duty would ask the two elders if he could support a sword of the duty. Seeing the strange love of Shui Yuemin, the elder wondered what this little son wanted to do. Shui Yuemin, Great Elder, seems to realize that compared to 6 whips, saving is indeed the best choice. He continued a long paragraph. So it was not that we punished too strong, but the moon of people who were too theoretical weakness. Lu Zhaoge now looks extremely poorly, the source of the sin of the people. The 2 weak words immediately pressed down on the people of the 2 elders, making them painful. Both of them were angry that this little son was humiliating all of us. The elders said that the master was the owner of a faction that used all power to fight a sword with a legendary disciple of Shui Yuemin. Seeing that he smiled and responded, so the elder of Shui Yuemin still knew that the duty was the owner of a sect as the Grand Master, according to the position of the duty not equal. Lu Zhaoge looked at the person in front of the eyes. Said that the duty to ask you to meet me, why not perform the ceremony? The 2 elderly attorneys were angry with you. Then he covered his mouth and smiled, and hoped that the 2 elders to remember carefully the people still not the Grand Master. The 2 elders immediately could not say anything, only stammered with my friend. Suddenly from where the applause and interesting said, very interesting. The beauty with that purple hair says, interesting. You are fascinating. Shui Yuemin the elder looked up on her face and thought that she had been out, and then Shui Yuemin the elder's face was as much as this time. Lu Zhaoge also asked her why she was here. Then that woman landed at everyone's shock. That woman exhaled her breath with a very beautiful physique. Looking at the person in front of him, he thought that in the mind, the daughter of Kiev Tontong compared to the fate of the blind sword of Yu Yue is higher than 1 step. The status in the sword is not less than the daughter of the owner of the sword Tong. Li Nanwei's sword now collected at her order, and Lu Zhaoge was still engrossed in thinking that, except for these 2, fate was the most key. She now smiled extremely excited. He thought she was a couple of Yu Yue. In his mind, he imagined the scene of Yu Yue afraid with Li Nanwei and laughed at the other young man. He was definitely in the secret of secret love, huh? While he focused on her face, Luo Bing in the back thought Lu Zhaoge noticed the peach of Li Nanwei. Then Luo Bing was shy to think that the son liked it like that. In her mind, she remembered that she was small in Than Lao. There were several billion, clearly very normal, but because the man liked this should make their business go in and go in and out at the bed door that can shake until midnight. Luo Bing softly thought that the prince also liked. She remembered the words of someone who told me that after returning to the mountain, I had to try the tactics that the ghost of this magic taught, that the tactics was very miraculous. Remember to apply a lot every night, once. But then she sighed again, but the ghost said that other people would do compared to us, which would be more effective than Luo Bing. And Lu Zhaoge turned to Yellow Eyes and thought, if she was a girl who swords up her realm now. But even the Yellow Eye could not investigate the results of the discovery, it was only questioned. The system now shows a strong organism warning, be careful. Seeing that Lu Zhaoge deepened the system that could not be detected at least taller than me 20, and said that this fire was at least to the beginning of level 40, thinking so he laughed and said that I had heard Yu Yue mention you in my mind, thinking that Yu Yue don't tell you. Do not hesitate to accept Li Nanwei worshipping Lu Zhaoge, one that makes the 2 elderly elders shocked so much that he opened his mouth. The other little son was crazy, and he dared to accept a ceremony of a daughter who was a mite. She doesn't care about this very interesting in this interesting mind. That is really true, that other people who see herself a dosaji to respect him and calmly accept it. Yu Yue, who once said that there was a mysterious brother looking at the person in front of her eyes, that she realized that he could not be a little survey. Lu Zhaoge was still talking and chatting with Li Nanwei. At that time, the eyes of the fake said constantly saying that the Grandmaster still knew Yu Yue. The disciple did not know that. When it was all saying what, Lu Zhaoge also laughed and said that the words were good words in the heart, thinking that the small Yu Yue can only help the first 2 old people who are scared of Li Nanwei and Lu Zhaoge, and Lu Zhao sweating for a while, at the same time 2 people. Lu Zhaoge wants to end the conversation with his hands and foxes in the subject. There is still a need to handle the report. Before Li Nanwei, who is perfectly said, after saying that Lu Zhaoge let Luo Bing, going a few steps has not yet come to the gate of Lu Zhao. Go remember something to stop. Zhaoge and Luo Bing, and turned his head to make the other 3 not understand anything. Remember the time when many phone used to say that the disciple prayed to compensate. Now Lu Zhao go towards the elder of the elder. Shui Yuemin, the debt of the debt, is more than the master's. The elder was smoky and did not do anything to throw out a bag of spiritual jelly and said that he took you in here. Lu Zhaoge reached out to catch the spiritual pocket. No need to check Lu Zhaoge tossing the pocket of the spirit for Luo Bing while walking and saying, and then go to Luo Bing to receive the spirit of obedience to the Grand Master. Li Nanwei observed in the footsteps of the other two until they flew away in this person's heart, really a smart person who had to find out whether he was a mysterious brother or not. The two elders of Shui Yuemen seemed to be unbearable and wanted to see off the guests, but at the same time feared Li Nanwei. The elder had to go up to say cleverly, inner map, appeared to make him laugh, and then he still... At this moment, two disciples carried many phone to go out of Li Nanwei with a deep eyes. He should not practice the sword anymore. The other two elders are green here, is the representative of Kiev Tong's opinion. Seeing Li Nanwei was about to leave, but the other two old gate did not dare to stutter. Li Nanwei started the technique of leaving before not forgetting the foxes from these days. Li Nanwei foxes. Here the elders stand motionless like a stone statue looking at Li Nanwei, leaving a corner of people, and people cannot hold back. At that time, the elder was just released to criticize the elder of the old man who taught that the elders could not object to the elder. Luo Bing observed the back to see someone who flew to notify Lu Zhaoge that the female sun sword was chasing it. When Li Nanwei caught up with the two, Lu Zhaoge Luo Bing, before that had considered Li Nanwei as an enemy, to observe the big breasts like two balloons of Li Nanwei, Luo Bing very unhappy. Two violated the rules and did she blow it inside. Lu Zhaoge knew that Li Nanwei chased, but did not know why the other woman chased after her. Li Nanwei spine straight with a sword, fluttering with Lu Zhao. Ge to put his hand to say goodwill, to say Lu Nanwei great mon. Lu Zhaoge stood upright and stood up like a glamour of the glory. Li Nanwei still wants to cling to the old story to explore the Grand Master, and Yu Ye the monk is really acquainted from a young age. Recalling when I was young, Lu Zhaoge and Yu Ye used to exchange martial arts with each other, so it was not very wrong to say that. Knowing that Lu Zhaoge was like that, Li Nanwei grasped the story in the main issue, so perhaps the mysterious brother Yu Ye said about the Grand Master, and Lu Zhaoge did not understand what Li Nanwei was saying, what to repeat. The mysterious brother in the heart of constantly asking the crime of Yu Ye, what the demon you, when I brought the duty. Li Nanwei had to explain the Grand Master, who did not know that Yu Ye in Kiev. Tong often mentioned the Grand Master, just did not want to disclose the identity, even when asked about the additive, did not mention. Lu Zhaoge then understood all the angry fire of the sky to hold the right to blame. Tang Dan forever, not going up the problem. He really wanted to hit his head to the side, but in his head what was thinking about, but it was the strongest sword in Tan Chao. Immediately, as the face of Lu Zhaoge still had to show a calm appearance to question the command after listening to this story, how to say, how. Li Nanwei tacitly feel a bit sad and fleeting. This one said he admired him very much. Lu Zhaoge heard the answer that did not understand the words of Li Nanwei, admiring the road to think that the tang was a sword ton. Why did you say the admiring word? Lu Zhaoge thinks of the other sword in his heart, suddenly becomes smoothly. Li Nanwei asked him again why the family said so much. Lu Zhaoge looks towards the distance and says, Li Nanwei, she knows what in this world is the most lonely. Li Nanwei seems to not understand all these sublime philosophical issues. The dry leaf flooded in front of the sky is the bright sunlight. Lu Zhaoge clasped his hands behind his back to explain that a defeated life, but there is no opponent to win the world, is the most lonely. Li Nanwei awakened to look like she understood the reason. Luo Bing has not experienced much life, but when listening to Lu Zhaoge's explanation, it is easy to understand. So it is so, the new Sword Ton Lord said that you admire, you're the sword of Ton, Thi, who can overcome the natural sword that can be said to be 1,000 years, and he has a strong opponent like a son. This is exactly what Kiev Ton Lord admires the great. Luo Bing looked at the back of Lu Zhaoge again. She clasped her hands and said, Luo Bing congratulated the master of the opponent, a lucky life. Li Nanwei, for the actions and words of Luo Bing, has highly appreciated the thief, and thought that this little lady is not so bad, has understood that this morality, Momen, is really deep and unpredictable. But the thing that the person who was praised was that Lu Zhaoge did not have any TI to feel proud or happy, but also angrily to congratulate the monkeys of the next time to see you. Wei must definitely hit its head to the side. That is the real name of the real price of Kiev Ton. Lu Zhaoge cleverly wanted to leave and said, Li Nanwei, she still had something to ask. There was no problem that we went ahead in Zhaoge's mind that was thinking about other emergency damn next time finding it to calculate the book. So first return to receive the reward, the mission. Li Nanwei was amazed at the attitude of Lu Zhaoge. There was no problem that we went before, was the first time we heard words like this. In the impression of Li Nanwei, she is the existence that is respected by people. Because in anywhere in Thanchao, she just needs all sects that are in a hurry to the ceremony. She will not say the sentences, like the previous one this time. Li Nanwei also mentioned her father for the first time, so that Lu Dongli is a bit curious for Lu Zhaoge. She immediately closed her hands and said that the Grand Master did not know that the Dong can stay in the subject for a few days, without thinking that this person was indeed different from other people who did not want to climb on the high branch, and he was more than an appearance. Lu Zhaoge glanced at Li Nanwei at the beginning, that the props did not give the props nor the task, nor could he attack and want to follow me about dressing without a few days of dreaming. I had to quickly think of the reason for chasing her away. While being brainstormed to see what reason should choose reasonable, Lu Zhaoge discovered Li Nanwei card hanging on the hip. That is very good. The successful item has attracted the attention of Lu Zhaoge. Zhaoge could not hide the smile of 360-degree rotation faster than flip. If you are already a daughter of Kiev Ton, you are the sister of Yu Yue. So the landlord is the duty to be more and more friendly. Luo Bing frowned and was not happy to think that the prince still did not like outsiders. Li Nanwei suddenly laughed loudly. Haha. Li Nanwei constantly gaining so much like that, haha. But Luo Bing next to him could not take his eyes off Li Nanwei's chest. The view of people. And then look at their own. It is true that there is no comparison. There is no pain. By this time, Luo Bing is even more firm with his speculation as expected of a large-sized daughter Luo Bing to turn the action in the goal of leading the sentence. Lu Zhaoge to the Massage plan tonight will start. Soon the three people went to Danthan Mountain. Everything here is still peaceful like that. Lu Zhaoge put his hand on the side that is the living room of Li Nanwei. She just arbitrarily wavers way to join hands to respond. Lu Zhaoge has just touched the ground quickly to assign the work for Luo Bing to find the time to arrange a good arrangement for the other mother and child, at least not to let them live too hard. Lu Zhaoge also went to his own business, so he went to receive his duty and did not know what good it would take this time. The system quickly appears a blinding gold notification. Please quickly receive the reward. Lu Zhaoge is now sitting cross-legged to call the leg. Upon hearing that the system appeared in front of him to grant the reward of the mission to look up and look at Lu Zhaoge depressed, and sighed again and started before appearing this special effect for himself, where he was nowhere to be bad, even though he said that, but he still sat there calmly feeling. At this time the system has upgraded the value of experience of $20,000 to see that it still works, normally without any problem, or badly. He nodded and told us to work normally. The next one saw him calling the system, immediately informed the task point, to start to see that he immediately looked up and bored again. And then this special effect of, you did not spend money, huh? Hearing that the system said that now it starts to proceed for the point of completion of his mission this time. Then the system was difficult to understand. The three questions made Lu Zhaoge depressed and cried out of boredom. Seeing the system seemed to make him angry and cursed that this chess system was like to play things that made this color directly for the point that was not okay. Then why suddenly, on the screen, number 2 made him stunned. He did not believe his eyes, now like sesame seeds. Grimo Mined 2, but hard to understand. Then suddenly the updated system showed an additional 8 heads that made him breathe a sigh of relief. It danced more numbers at the top of the line that made him not know what to say, but his face was darker. Then the system started a warmly cheering to congratulate him to achieve 82 points of values of reputation that he saw that he was so depressed, and looked up and dried up his aunt and asked him to ask 82 points, 18. Then seemed to be miserable the problem. He immediately rubbed his chin and said that he wanted to achieve a high score that had to bring both the baby and the older to beat it, and certainly not to miss it at that time. He looked up at the system of the promotion value, which was 1047 to 1000. To see that he immediately shouted an hour and said the value of the reputation was enough to break through the 8th sect. He touched on the screen with his hand and told him that after a while, at this time the system appears and then informs him the necessary condition to promote the 8 products value 1047 1003 monks from the second realm, or more 1-3 of the number of disciples surpassing 100 foreigners, 8-100. Seeing that he rubbed his chin and thought that there was a lack of 2 conditions for the third condition, that was a bit annoying. The second thing that seemed simpler, we recently gathered the value of experience. For a while, the smile on his lips suddenly showed out that he was happy. Then he promoted to 2 more levels directly to break the 2 scenes. Then he started meditation to promote level from level 18 to level 19 level to level 20, so that he went up 2 more levels of the first scene. At this time Lu Dongli was watching the little Chu who practiced when he suddenly turned around to tell him to break the scene and then even break the 2 scenes. At this moment on the other side of a female closed eye showed a pair of long eyelashes suddenly startled. She opened her eyes to look at everything around her and then suddenly asked the most full scene. At this time, she was just hard to understand and thought that the breakthrough immediately had nothing to do with me and Yu Yue, who had experienced this. But when that brother was in Shui, Yue Men, it was really the 8th floor of the first realm. Then there was something that made her cold back and stunned to think that the first floor of the first realm was able to earn a picture of this picture. How could this be like that? Even the most beloved her father, even the father once said that under the third realm, do not waste time to earn ideas, even if it is perfect for thousands of years as do the Yun, your brother must be, after the third realm to form the sword. Then she remembered Lu Zhaoge's face suddenly. She smiled with a half-face and flushed face and thought of the initiative, or flying there to catch him a little research. Then a moment of lying on the bed, she hugged her face red, but reassured that she was not calm. She was the daughter of Kiev Ton. How could she do such a type of thing? When she regained her composure, she sighed and fitted to comfort that. She was happy to think about him happily, and then whispered, but that was really the first realm to make a realistic thing. But drilling not to misunderstand Li Nanwei is just a swordsman. Now she just rolled back and forth like a child and reassured herself to endure him. Now he is definitely absorbed to wait for the early morning to go to him on his own. It is true that this delusion is a bit more evil. Not only once the image of a guy being crying, Hutu appeared before his eyes, heard that you were a perfect sword for thousands of years. Then the great devil who came to the melancholy face was so scared to ask people who really wanted to study, to see that the guy was scared and cried the roof and then shouted. The loud scream seemed to want to break the roof that night. No one knew what was going on, but it was worth mentioning that Yu Yue in the situation of not awake in the mouth always mentioned the other brother. This Australia Lu Zhaoge is relaxing the body to breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4 again. But Lu Zhaoge now is like a basic screen, not knowing what is called absorption, even on the face, and smiling sinister smile. At this time there was a notice of promotion task. Then he scratched his head and laughed as if he was Bao Hai he had the task of promoting. At this time 4 colors of choice from left to right, yellow, purple, orange. At this time he wondered last time the orangey step was quite effective. This time of course we still had to choose it and he laughed at him. Then choose the oranga. The chosen orange member immediately announced that he had successfully chosen the difficult task. Then he read the details that it was hard to frown and said that it was a coincidence, that it was a hell. Then a promotion task table appeared at this time as killing love from the mysterious organization. Reading, so he smirked and said that this year was not peaceful. At this time the countdown watch displays the time to 48 hours. Lu Zhaoge's face now showed a mysterious look that said the hunting moment was started. Then he kept clicking on the screen and told you to appreciate the next time to be good anyway. This is the last moment in your life. In the early morning the next day, on the cliff at this time, Lu Zhaoge him slowly appeared, and he sat there to cultivate peacefully. Maybe you did not know, the daily cultivation was Lu Zhaoge's habit. A little small thing will not make him changa. His habit, or say he thinks that killing love that people talk about is a chanji is just a small thing. At this time he slowly opened his eyes and said it was morning. At this moment my breasts appeared in front of him. A person bent down to tell Lu's attorney to be very interesting, and then she laughed like a child. At this time he frowned and asked Li Nanwei she could not know how to disturb others cultivating very rude. Then he turned to another place that made her see so quickly, thought that the female body would not be able to get the next time. Then she folded her hand close to his face and said, Li Nanwei knew wrong, and made him scared of purple face, and did not know what to say. At this time he turned away and tried to calm down and calmly calm down this girl. Getting calm, he went back to telling Li Nanwei, who had an important thing to go down to the mountain to handle she could freely travel in the subject, without a problem. So she hurriedly said that she waited for the Grandmaster of Li Nanwei to ask. Hearing that he turned to leave and told him. Then she asked against the cold and asked him to say that no one could say that no one could imagine when he was under the third realm, but the Grandmaster could do. This is why, this is why. Such a question he did not know what to say. Then he gently proved to show the wrong sword, wearing a big tree behind the back. Hearing that sentence she was startled to ask sword Tonsai, and then the head of the religion was the brightest lamp of the sword in Than Chao in return. Then she is wary and called this father. Then her hand tried to embrace her heart. Then remember the words of my father saying that we are the head of the sword. But this does not mean that we are the swordsmanship. She smirked slightly and told him that if he met him he would definitely appreciate him. Then Lu Zhaoge slowly flew away. Sitting on it he pretended to think after completing this orange J level will be good. He has thought of the booty. Then he smiled and looked at this smile that was extremely excited. But in fact this person has not even found the goal of the mission. And he excitedly raised his hand to shout out of my lovely monster to wash your neck and put it on the treasure prepared to reincarnate. Even though Lu Zhaoge called it a small monster, but you absolutely do not think so. It is a giant monster of the same rank as a monk with a monster with him, plus a strong artery that can both fight and swallow the monster to become stronger than the existence that a person has absolutely no way to resist. Then he stood and clasped his hands behind his back to look at the light ahead of the frequent leisurely, but Lu Zhaoge was not like that, he was the player. In Kim-gu village, where the old and young people are peaceful together, there is a life that has a mother sitting meticulously sewing, but also not forgetting to pay attention to her child, who is playing in the distance. Don't run so fast, she will hear the girl just smiling. Hiffy. Besides Kim-gu village, there is a small river of clear water where covered with a fog behind is a hilly mountain that looks so beautiful and poetic. Like this is a natural picture that writers often mention. Suddenly a girl wearing a skin leopard lip, her lips silently rising from the water. Then she quietly looked at Kim-gu village in front of her. Then she stuck out her tongue and stuck her tongue. It was not bad to find a human village. At this moment behind her is something extremely wonderful and devil.